was trying to get the horizon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to begin the 2014 USSSA National Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And to get tonight's Hall of Fame ceremony underway, it is my pleasure to introduce the man who set the standard for Hall of Fame MCs, my mentor, my friend, the Kentucky Colonel, to say words he's said many times before, Mr. Chuck Fisher.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to share one of the greatest highlights every year in USSSA, the ultimate honor to be nominated, elected, and then inducted into the USSSA National Hall of Fame is the highest honor that can be bestowed on a player, coach, umpire, sponsor, director, or any other participant in the USSSA program. It is a rare honor, reserved for a select few who have impacted the game in the most significant way. The first USSSA Hall of Fame induction ceremony was conducted in 1979 at the first national meeting in Tullahoma, Tennessee. So tonight will be our 35th class of inductees. As of this date, 186 individuals have received this distinguished honor. At this time, I would like to call upon Jeff to introduce to you the members of the USSSA National Hall of Fame that have joined us tonight.
As Chuck said, several of our Hall of Fame members are here with us tonight, and their presence is one of the things that makes this evening so special. So I'd like to begin by recognizing each of those Hall of Famers in attendance and ask that they please stand when they are introduced. In the interest of time, I would ask that you hold your applause until everyone is standing, and if I fail to introduce anyone, please stand as well. It's a big room, and I may miss someone. First, the Hall of Famers in the executive category who are here with us tonight. First, our host, Mr. Don DiDonatis, Mr. Danny Brown, Jim Swint, Robert Boudreau, Tom Turley, Rick Fortuna, Mark Linneman, Kevin Nagley, Joey Odom, Jerry Turnberg, David Evall, Gordon Glennie, and Bob Holland. In the female player category with us tonight, Jan Dieters, Pam Patras, and Mary Jane Rance. In the male player category, Mike Masinko, Chuck Mayrana, Jeff Hall, Brett Helmer, Jeff Wallace, Dennis Ruley, Andy Purcell, Johnny McCraw, and Howie Kraus. In the sponsor category, Mr. Travis Rismondo. In the director category, Brenda Paulson, Tammy Totland, Chuck Fisher, Craig Candela, Rick Brockwell, and Rick Mars. In the manager category, Jackie Hayes, Colleen Needham, Lou Calvisi, Jeff Miller, John Rector, Chuck Druitz, and Frank Webb. In the manufacturer category, Hank Bassett, Denny Helmig, Don Cooper, and Robert Parrish. And in the umpire category, Rick Robertson, John Hart, Dale McGregor, and Dwayne Posovitz. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating these Hall of Famers. Tonight, 10 more individuals will join this very elite group. Upon their introduction and their induction, each inductee will be presented a framed certificate of induction, their Hall of Fame ring, and a specially engraved Hall of Fame bat that has been generously provided by Worth Sports. We are delighted that Mr. Denny Helmig of Worth Sports is with us tonight to present each inductee with their bat. So now, without further ado, let's get the inductions underway. Our first inductee tonight is in the sponsor category. He hails from Bryant, Arkansas, and his name is Chris Walker. At this time, I would ask that everyone please turn their attention to the large video screens to my left and right or in the back of the room. And as we watch this presentation, it'll give us all a chance to learn a bit more about Chris's incredible contributions and support for the game of softball.
What got me going playing sports and baseball really was my family grew up at the ballpark. My sister played on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I played on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. After I got out of college, and I immediately started playing softball. And I just started playing softball ever since then. I've been playing since 91, 92. But I remember two players, Mike Marcinko and Bruce Meade. I saw that, and that kind of piqued my interest a little bit, that there was a whole nother level to play. And but we just started playing locally there in the mid-90s, and from there just started growing. Well, when I first started playing, just started playing with some teams, and I just started thinking, I think this can be done a little bit better. And I always believed in, as being a sponsor, even though you were playing, is to put yourself last. And if I always would make decisions and do things and put myself last and put my teammates first, that I could build a good team. I was thinking that we could build something special if we did it right. So hopefully people remember me by someone that could stay as a sponsor for a long time. I think one of the things I'm most proud about is we're the anti-sandbaggers. We always played above our classification. We didn't win a lot, but we always looked forward to playing the best. And so that was more important to us, is accepting that challenge and going see, and you see how good you are. Right about the same time in 2005, we started thinking about what could we do to put together a team mostly from Arkansas, and how would we compete on the next level. And then that's in 2006 when the conference was formed, and so it was great timing for us to take advantage of such a program, and it's been wonderful. I mean, to me, you know exactly where you stand. You don't have to wonder how good you are. If you want to find out, then you can join the conference and see where you are. It is kind of special to have that representation, that you're representing something, your state. And so this is what we kind of always feel, hey, we're some of the best from Arkansas, and this is who we are, and this is how we play. And so it is kind of neat to represent something year after year. It means a lot that people recognize what you do over maybe a long period of time. Just some confirmation that maybe I did do something right. Sometimes I didn't feel like I was doing always the right thing or the best thing, but maybe some confirmation that, yeah, that's the way it was supposed to be done. So hopefully we did it right.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Chris, here's his friend and another great friend of softball from Worth Sports, Mr. Mike Cornell.
First off, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees in tonight's Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank Don and his staff for putting on another awesome convention down here at Champions Gate. I had the great pleasure of meeting Chris Walker in 2008. I'd become a coach on the staff of Fence Brokers and Laser Vision. And we had a lot of coaches on that team, maybe more than even some of the Dan Smith teams. So, you know, we had a lot of different views and opinions of players and lineups and where to hot Brad Stillwell. I mean, there was a lot of things that we had to work out amongst ourselves. And I have to say that as I went through the season and got to know him a little bit more, I just was amazed at what a class act Chris was, how he handled himself on the field and how he handled himself with the players, the teams. He always put the players and the coaching staff, you know, ahead of himself. And probably one of the most memorable moments I can remember was standing in the dugout with him. And unfortunately, that year in 2008, we didn't have the most successful season. But some of the one-liners I would hear from Chris Walker and people like Will Watson and Wes Campbell, it made the year very bearable. Chris is a sponsor that is not really in it for the trophies, the accolades, the praise that he gets. He's in it for the right reasons. He's a class act, and I want to congratulate him on being a member of the 2014 Hall of Fame. Let me introduce Chris Walker.
My first convention was last year, and my first Hall of Fame banquet was last year, and it was all new to me. And I remember walking in here, and I was a little late because I wasn't feeling good. And I looked at the table, and I thought, that doesn't look like my table. And so I went back out, and I said, are you sure I'm at this table? And they said, yeah, you're at that table. So I went back in, and it seemed like one of the lights was shining down on just that lone chair. Everybody else was at the table. So I sit down, and I was a little intimidated because I had Hank Bassett and his wife to my right, and then Dennis Turner, and then to my left was Mike Basinko. And there was a mom, son right here, and I thought, well, maybe they're not softball legends, and Dirk Androff. So everybody at the table was pretty much, I'm sitting there thinking, what am I doing at this table? So, I started talking to Miss Bassett. She was very nice, and I could tell Mike was kind of looking at me. And so I looked over to the left, and I made eye contact, and he said, who are you? I know he didn't mean it like that, but what I heard was, why are you at this table? And so now I finally feel like Mike, I'm at the table. So. I got some people I want to thank really quick. You can't really do this by yourself, especially as a sponsor. You always have so many people that you depend on. First, Billy Lee Yarborough, he's our state director. He's always given us a place to play. I know a lot of teams, you have if you're classified A or B, he's been doing it for 26 years. We've always never had to worry about where we're going to play, especially early. And so he's done a great job. We have a great state program. Last year we've had 2 National Umpires of the Year. I think out of 9 years in the conference, we've had 14 conference teams for a state of 3 million people. So we're really proud of our softball program, and Billy's a big part of that. So I really appreciate that. He's helped us out a bunch. Also want to thank Don. At the same time, we were trying to do what we thought we wanted to do. They had the vision to create a program. I can't say we didn't. It gives us a place to play because I think we still could have played, but it gave us a place to see where we stood. Like I said in the video, we know exactly where we are every weekend. Now we don't win a lot, but we still come back every time. Every time I call Lori and tell her, hey, we're getting in the conference again. You are? Yeah. Yeah, we're getting in again, believe it or not. Well, I know we don't win a lot, but we're getting in again. So I know she hangs up and said, they're in again. They are. So, but we do enjoy, and it's kind of good. We get
we have to get those certain guys that are willing to do that also. Not everybody's willing to travel and do all that and not win a lot, but we like the challenge. And so that's what our teams are always made of. Mike Wilson, my manager, he's been with me for a while. He knows softball, and if it wasn't for him, I could not do it. He handles the travel, the phone calls, the this, the that, I need this, and I don't handle any of that. He handles that, and I really appreciate everything you've done for me. My teammates, Jason Bridges, he's here tonight. I've developed some very good friends. Zach King, Jason Bridges, he's here. He came tonight, and I really appreciate being here. If you don't know Jason, he's a pitcher, and he's Chris Rock with a knuckleball. He's the funniest. I mean, we have a good time all the time, so he's a big part of that. We can still be losing and have a great time. I want to thank Worth. We've been with them ever since we've gotten the conference. Dennis Turner, we started out with him. He handed the reins over to Mike Cornell, and you don't take advantage of those guys, and they'll do just about anything for you. Now, the difference between people helping you and being there, and then there's people that allow you to do this, like Laura, my wife, thank you. It's not, in the time period that when we started in 2006, we first started dating and got married and have had 2 children, and one of them's over there asleep right now. But at any moment, she could have put a stop to all this. And so I really appreciate, it's not fun getting home, you know, us leaving Friday morning, getting home Sunday nights, there with 2 toddlers the whole time. That's not a fun deal. I realize that. I know when she leaves to go with her friends, you know, I want to find, you know, I keep them for a couple hours. I'm looking for duct tape and cable ties and all kinds of stuff. So just wondering what time she gets home so I can get them out of the closet. So, but thank you very much. It's, you know, thank you for spending that time. I know I'm taking up too much time here. And then the last thing is I want to thank is through all this, I really, and this is the last one, but my dad's here tonight, and despite what everybody thinks, I do not own Fence Brokers. He owns Fence Brokers, and he's a very good businessman. He'll tell you the reason he has money is because he doesn't spend it. And so softball is almost like the anti of that. It's the opposite of that. So he's allowed me to do this. Over the years, it's gone from an employee-boss relationship to a partner relationship, but he's another one at any time could have put a stop to any of this. And so he's allowed me to pursue this dream, and a lot of the characteristics that it takes to do what we do, you know, being organized, I watched all that growing up, him starting a business, and that's where I learned a lot of the characteristics that I did. So with that, you know, I really appreciate everything you let me do and let me live out my dream. So that's all I have. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll read the first plaque. USSSA Hall of Fame, to whom it may concern. This witnesses that Christopher Walker, upon the nomination of the National Hall of Fame Election Committee and the election by the governing body of the United States Specialty Sports Association, is hereby inducted as a member of the United States Specialty Sports Association Hall of Fame, inducted on the 21st day of November in the year 2014.
On behalf of the Board of Directors, it's my pleasure to give this ring to Chris because he's been the support of this conference, and this is the success of the conference is because of sponsors and gentlemen like his who believed in it. He's one of the few teams that has played in it all 9 years, and he's committed back for the 10th year. Chris Walker, my pleasure, buddy.
Our second inductee tonight is in the male player category. He is from Jonesboro, Arkansas, and he is Mr. Bobby Hughes. Now, please turn your attention once again to the video screens so we can learn a bit more about Bobby's illustrious career.
Well, I think like a lot of guys, I mean, you know, baseball was a big part of my life growing up, and when that came to a screeching halt, you know, you needed some type of outlet, you know, to challenge yourself, and softball was something that, you know, the skill sets kind of overlap, and it was just easy to jump into that, and a lot of fun. For me, it was just the competitive piece to it. You know, when I first started playing, like everyone does, I mean, I played at the lowest level and thought that was the highest level until I kind of looked around at some tournaments and saw that there was some guys doing, you know, some different things, playing at a higher level, and, you know, you always want to challenge yourself for that opportunity, and that was kind of the driving force for me, was to kind of always try to push myself and challenge myself. And when I saw some of those guys playing at that level, I said, you know what, I think I can do that, and I want to be there someday. So, well, for me, the preparation piece of it, you know, I always felt like, you know, that was important to me. With my teammates, I always wanted to feel like, you know, I knew that I put the time in for the weekend, that you know, I was going to do the right things for the team to win, that I was an unselfish player, you know, and you know, I wasn't going to let the team down. I didn't want a loss at a tournament to be because of my lack of preparation. That's probably the main thing. I just wanted to have the respect of my teammates. I think, well, I mean, as a team, back in 2002, we were a AA team, and we won the USSSA major, and I think that was probably, you know, the best feeling, as far as, you know, taking a team that was not expected to do much there at the World Series, and we surprised a lot of people and beat some teams that, you know, technically had a lot more talent than we did. It is, it's a very humbling experience for me. It's something I didn't, you know, when I started playing the game, I didn't anticipate, I didn't plan on, and it really wasn't a goal of mine to do that individually. It's just very humbling. I'm overwhelmed with it, you know, and a couple of the guys that are going in with this class is, you know, it's pretty humbling to me. I made some lifelong friends, and there was a neat camaraderie that you had week in, week out, and, you know, right about Thursday you kind of started looking forward to getting with the guys and competing with them and sweating with them and bleeding with them, and you know, trying to win every weekend.
So it's been my privilege to be the stadium announcer for every World Series that Bobby has played in, and there have been a lot of those. And he's always been a very key member of a number of World Series champions. I have to admit, one thing I was interested to see tonight was if even with a suit he'd wear his socks up high, but he's not. He's actually wearing them normal. But at this point, to tell us a little bit more about Bobby, I am very pleased to introduce his friend and his teammate, and a guy who, like Bobby, has some decent speed and a pretty good glove, Mr. Donnie DiDonatis.
I'd like to start off by congratulating all the other inductees into the 2014 USSSA Hall of Fame. This is a great class, and everyone here is well deserving of this honor. I played with Bobby and against him for the better part of 15 years. Bobby would definitely be considered a five-tool player that could hit for power, average. He could run, throw, and track it down in the outfield as good as anybody I've played with or against in my 17 years at this level. I've had the good fortune to play with and against a lot of good ones. Bobby was a selfless teammate that had the skill set to hit 800, to lead the country in home runs, to do a lot of individual stuff. Bobby, we obviously play a lot of games, for those of you who don't know, on home run limits on smaller fields where home runs are pretty easy to come by. You would never see Bobby take a selfish swing to hit a solo home run or a two-run homer in a bad spot. Bobby would ground out to the pitcher before he would do that. All his teammates, and like he said, a lot of the stuff he said in his interview was funny because a lot of stuff I'm going to say about him. Like I said, just all about the team, all about winning, and he was a gamer, a competitor, and Bobby played his best when the game was at its largest on the line. Disney, the big tournaments, you would get your A game out of Bobby. In Bobby's career, he won 5 major USSSA rings, and 4 of those I was fortunate enough to be a part of with the Rismondo group. So, like I said, I played with a lot of them. Bobby is as good as it gets as an all-around player. Now that I told you a little bit about Bobby as a player, I kind of wanted to get into Bobby's alter ego and introduce you to him. For those of you who don't know, that'd be Bob Noxious. So Bob Noxious would come out when he's had probably in the range of 20 to 25 drinks. And I'm just going to get into a couple of quick stories. Amy, please don't get mad if you haven't heard either of these two. His lovely wife Amy's out there. She's an angel for putting up with that guy. So a couple of quick stories. We're in Cincinnati, and Bobby kind of tweaked his groin on Friday night, so he was not going to be able to play the rest of the weekend. So no big deal. We're walking into the field at about, our first game's at 12:30 and 2 o'clock on Saturday in the afternoon. So we're walking in, and Izzy had a great idea. He said, "Hey, Bob, you start drinking right now." He said, "I'll buy your drinks all day and all night." I was thinking, uh-oh, this is not going to end well. So we played our first 2 games, no big deal. You know, everything was kind of low-key. Due to Wegs's great scheduling, for anyone who's ever played at Cincinnati, we were supposed to play our next 2 games at 8:30 and 10. Mind you, it was 85, sunny, not a drop of rain. We played at 1:30 a.m. and 3 a.m. So I don't think that helped Bob's cause either, as obviously he was pretty much going from about noon till 4 in the morning when it was all said and done and we walked off the field. But yeah, so when we started that 1:30 a.m. game, Bobby was hanging out with my wife Tammy and Mama Cheryl on the deck there at the bar, and Howie hit a double off the fence. And as Howie gets into second base, Bobby's up on the balcony and just starts screaming, "Howie, you know why you're on second? 'Cause you're fat. 'Cause you're fat." He probably called Howie fat 200 times in a 5-minute span. I mean, at the top of his lungs. So, you know, we were all in the dugout laughing, and everyone was kind of having a good time, but I think by 4 o'clock when we walked off the field, I think everybody on our team and every team in the park might have wanted to beat him up. True story, though, when we go back to Cincinnati, the last 2 years, Bob has not been there. People in the crowd ask where Bobby Hughes is. They loved him. He was up there with all the locals, and they thought he was the greatest guy ever. So my last story, and this one's my favorite, is we would kind of bring everyone in. The one year we went to a Magic game. The first tournament of the year, we would bring everyone in a day early. We'd just hang out and practice and get together. So we all go to a Magic game. My dad gets us seats, the whole team. You know, we're not playing the next day, so we all have a bunch of drinks, have a good time. We hang out in the bar after at the arena, you know. So Bobby's doing pretty well at this point, as we all were probably. So no big deal. We drive home. I don't think much of it. You know, I think we get home at, 1:30 or 2. You know, no big deal. I go to bed thinking everything's okay. Come 9 in the morning, just forward and ahead, I hear a pounding at my door like it's the police. And I'm kind of out of it and foggy. I run to my door and look through my peephole, and it's the general manager of Mystic Dunes, the condos that we're staying at. So I look out and I'm like, this cannot be good. So I did kind of what any responsible adult would do at the time. I basically ignored him and went back to bed and just pulled the covers over my head hoping he would go away. So I picked my phone up, and what he was knocking at my door, the reason is Bob and Rick Baker decided to go get some food and not go right back. And somehow, some way, I still don't know the real story, their rent-a-car ended up in the sand trap of the 9th hole at Mystic Dunes Golf Course. So, and they just left it there because they couldn't get it out. So we had to call a tow truck the next morning, and that was a pretty good one. And Bobby, dead serious in the morning when I talked to him, he looks at me and he goes, "You think Senior's going to be mad?" So yeah, so that's a couple of my good Bobby stories. But in closing, like I said, Bobby was a great teammate, a great player. He's even probably a better husband, a better father. He's got 2 lovely daughters, and I'm proud to call Bobby a lifelong friend. So in closing, introduce you to the newest member of the USSSA Hall of Fame, Bobby Hughes.
Huh. I like the first part of that speech a lot. Rick Baker was driving that night, Amy. Promise. Well, first of all, I'd just like to congratulate all the other recipients here tonight. What an awesome shindig that they always put on. I need to thank USSSA for nominating me. It's a very humbling experience. I'm kind of overwhelmed with it. Not something that I had anticipated, but like I said, I'm very humbled and very thankful. When I began reflecting on softball and my life in general, everything that brought me, to this place, I started thinking how many opportunities had just seemingly fallen in my lap at different phases of my life. How lucky I was. It just was amazing. And then as I thought a little more, I knew that it was more than just luck. And on Tuesday morning, I came across a scripture, and it's Jeremiah 29:11. And that scripture reads, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And that has resonated through my life, just every phase of my life, that holds true. I'm so very blessed. I have so many people to thank, and first and foremost, I need to thank my mom and dad. My mom taught me by example. She lived a life, she was a blessing to everybody. She put everybody in front of her. She did nothing but serve others, whether it was our immediate family, whether she was serving someone in the church or one of her friends, or time down at the homeless shelter where she spent a lot of time. She was always a blessing. She was always serving. My mom is currently in the late stages of Alzheimer's, and she is actually in a long-term care facility. But when I went and visited her the last time, all of the staff, when they found out I was her son, they came up to me, each one of them, and they gushed about my mom, and they said over and over, we've never had anyone like her here. Even though that she didn't recognize me when I was there. She's gone cognitively, but they told me that after dinner she goes in and she helps with the dishes, and she helps wipe down the tables. When another resident's crying or upset, she sits down next to him, puts her arm around him, tells him it's going to be okay. And when they told me that, all I could do is smile and say, that's my mom. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. She's still a blessing. She's still serving. My dad had his 81st birthday yesterday, so this is kind of a neat little birthday gift for him. I had a chance to speak to him and told him how much I loved him. My dad was raised on a farm in Iowa during the Depression, and all his brothers would tell me what an amazing left-handed pitcher he was. But unfortunately, if you were raised on a farm in Iowa during the Depression, if you weren't at school, you were on the farm working. So he didn't get a lot of time to hone those skills. My dad was a veteran of the Korean War, and he put himself through engineering school at the University of Iowa. When he got done there, he worked for over 40 years as an engineer at Alcoa. My dad was our provider. He was our spiritual leader. He was my mentor, my coach, my teacher, and he was always my biggest fan. When I was 12 years old, he sat me down with a card like this, and he said, "I want you to write out, don't overthink it, write out your top 3 goals for the season." 12 years old now, it's Little League. We didn't have U-Trip. I'd have played U-Trip. I promise. All we had was Little League. But anyway, so I remember very vividly, my first goal, like probably any of these guys sitting out here, I want to hit 20 home runs. And I think the regular season was about 16 or 18 games, so to say that was a little bit of a stretch goal is to put it mildly. And I think I came up right about 17 home runs short of that goal, okay? Hey, I'm being honest, right? There wasn't Google back then. I could have lied. I'm being transparent. But what my dad was teaching me was the importance of having a vision, setting goals, writing them down, and then having the discipline and the effort, and not giving up until you hit those goals. That's a behavior that my dad instilled in me, and I still use that today in everything I do. You know, I was pretty distraught when my baseball career, if you can really even call it a baseball career, ended. I didn't know, you know, what to do. I knew I needed to go back and finish my education, so I went back to Fayetteville, to the University of Arkansas, and got my degree. And obviously, with a degree comes some opportunities. But by far, the greatest thing that happened to me when I went back to Fayetteville was I met my wife, Amy, she has been my biggest support, my best friend, and she is the absolute best mother my two little girls could ever hope for. So I love you, Amy. Thank you. And she's smoking hot, too, so. I'm a lot smarter than I look. Now, incidentally, the first softball bat I ever purchased when I first started playing softball was the Dirk Androff TPS. And shortly thereafter, I came across a Carl Rose Worth Supercell. So if you'd have told me back then that I'd be standing up here in front of all you doing this, I would have laughed at your face. So I'm just so blessed to be in this induction class and just, you know, feel like I have to have somebody pinch me. Thank you. I've got way too many teammates to thank, and Lori, I know, she wants to stay on schedule. But again, it just comes down to the fact that the reason I feel like I'm standing up here is I just flat out have played with some of the best players to ever play the game. And that's the main reason I'm up here. So thanks to everybody that I ever played with that's here in attendance. Thank you. A special thanks to the late Woody Bell. He's a gentleman that gave me the opportunity to play softball at the major level. And Woody was a guy that he was going to tell you what he was thinking, whether you wanted to hear it or not. But a couple things is Woody would always tell you the truth, and if he told you he was going to do something, it was a done deal. And the game definitely misses Woody Bell. Special thanks to Travis Resmondo. You know, Travis, there's a few things about Travis y'all probably don't know. One is that the game of softball has made Travis a millionaire. Because had he never gotten involved with softball, he'd probably be a trillionaire. And Travis has this innate ability, it's really a gift, that he can get the whole entire park to root against whatever team is in his dugout. I've never seen anything like it. But what's interesting is he's pretty smart because the team rallies around that. They take that as us against the world, and his performance and success speaks for itself. He's done a great job. The other thing you don't know about Travis is his heart is about as big as this room, and he would do anything for anybody in his family, any of his friends, and any of his players. So thank you, Travis. I appreciate everything you've done. I have to thank Frank the Tank Webb, no Red Bull tonight, and Mama Cheryl Webb. They're the behind the scenes that keep the Resmondo machine running. Thank you all for everything that you've done. And thanks to Coach John Rector, coached the teams I was on for a lot of years. You know, I used to think about coaches in slow pitch softball kind of like the referees in professional wrestling, you know? You don't really need them there, but it's like it just kind of wouldn't look the same if they weren't. But John's a little different. John takes it serious. He's extremely engaged. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen a coach with more passion. And if you don't believe that, come by the dugout after one of the rare losses. I mean, I've seen people on Barbara Walters specials cry less than he cries after the loss. So he's very passionate. He's good at what he does. Thank you, John. You know, I think it's pretty safe to say, talking about softball and the conference, that Don Sr. has done with men's softball what John F. Kennedy did for the U.S. space program. He put a man on the moon. That was a big deal. No one gets it. It's a big deal. Anyway, so I just want to thank USSSA for the amazing softball program that they put together, and the conference, the evolution of the conference that I was able to play in it's just unbelievable.
and it truly is just a class act, and it's always getting better, and everything they do is for the players, and I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to play in it, and I appreciate this induction. It means a lot to me, and I promised my daughters I would say, "Woo Pig Suey, go Hogs, beat Ole Miss. God bless America." Thank you.
Our third inductee tonight is in the manager category. His name is Mr. Coy Honeycutt. Coy last called Myrtle Beach, South Carolina home, but as many of you know, Coy passed away late last year. He left us way too soon, but he left behind an enormous legacy, including his incredible success in the game of softball and his building of one of the game's true dynasties in Rich's Superior. I would now ask that everyone turn their attention to the video screens so we can learn a little bit more about Coy's celebrated softball career.
Coy brought what all softball players and teams need, and that's sponsorship. He loved the game of softball. He maneuvered his business so that he would have that extra bit of money, and he would throw it towards sponsorship. He started out in the late 60s and the early 70s with a team, and I believe it was even called Honeycutt Motors at one time. So he brought a lot to the game with his ability to spend his money freely, happily, and you know, he enjoyed being around the guys and being around the game. So he brought that sponsorship that you're always looking for today. What he accomplished? He accomplished, you know, guys dream about. They dream about accomplishing what he did. When Coy quit sponsoring the game, I think what people missed about him was his jokiness. You know, he would always cut up. He always would stand for his team, and if there was a bad call, he'd be the first one to come out there and get on an umpire. But he just was funny all the time, cracking jokes, doing some crazy things. And I think his jokiness, the way he would treat people and be happy and fun all the time, that's the thing that people miss the most.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Coy, I'm pleased to introduce a man who managed against Coy, who with Louisville Slugger partnered with Coy, a man who himself is a Hall of Famer, one of the finest gentlemen the game of softball will ever know, Mr. Hank Bassett.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks to Don, the board, and the office staff for the fantastic job they always do on this special event to honor those who have made special contributions to our game. Congratulations to Chris and Bobby and those that will follow. In all, an extremely worthy group of inductees. Tonight I have the honor of introducing an individual, a representative, Coy's wife, whom I competed against when I had my team, and then was fortunate enough to have worked with when I was with Louisville Slugger. As Mike pointed out in the Coy began sponsoring local teams in the 60s and 70s under the banner of Honeycutt Motors. In the early 80s, he brought Larry Ballard on board to to help him coach, and he endeavored to become more competitive. In 1984, his teams began playing under the banner of Harrisonburg Battery and Salvage, and did well at the A level, winning championships at the state tournament level. In 1987, Coy purchased Rich's Salvage, and his teams were known by that name thereafter. They finished high nationally that year in the A World, and then Coy cut out the following season due to business problems. When he came back into the game in 1989, he did so with a passion and determination that he was going all out and would compete with the very best in the game. He added a number of Hall of Fame level players to his roster, including USSSA Hall of Famer Britt Hightower. I spoke with him this week, and Britt shared the following story with me. In July of the '89 season, we had a tournament in Petersburg, Virginia, and my wife went into labor on the Friday I was supposed to leave for the tournament. She had my son that day, and needless to say, I didn't make the tournament. Coy called me that night, madder than a wet hen, and told me if I wasn't in Virginia by game time the next morning, that I would be off the team. I told him there was no way I would be there. I imagine Britt probably said more than that, but he didn't tell me that part. Coy said a few choice words, hung up on me, and I didn't hear from him again that weekend. Monday morning, we received flowers and a gift for my son. Coy called me that afternoon, apologized, and said that he wanted me to play for him the rest of the year. Even though the team had gone 2-2 that weekend, Coy had tried to make it up to me for his earlier negative comments, and he and I got along great from that point on. I came to love him for how much he cared and how generous he was. Coy's '89 Rich's Salvage team enjoyed success in the other associations, winning championships over there, but they ended up going 0-2 in the World Series that year. I have to note, for the purpose of background for what was yet to come, that Frank Lodiano's Superior Apollo team won the World Series that year. So Coy cranked up his recruiting another notch for the upcoming season, brought Buddy Slater in to help run the team along with Charles Wright, Cecil Whitehead, and other players. Buddy, like Britt and a lot of his former players, was also fond of Coy. He liked how competitive Coy was, yet at the same time, he always kept a light-hearted manner, bantering all the time, cracking jokes, like Mike mentioned, most of which couldn't possibly be repeated here, and keeping the players loose. He kept everybody loose anytime you talked to him. The end result was that Rich's Salvage won the World Series that year. I personally remember it well because one of the players Coy had brought on board was another softball great, Cecil Whitehead, who set a World Series record by hitting 12 home runs in a row during that series. Immediately after the series, as is usually the case, everything went into high gear among all of the major teams as they attempted to put together the best team they could for the upcoming season. Frank Lodiano approached Buddy, wanting Buddy to come over and manage his team, along with several of Coy's players. Buddy suggested to Frank that instead of doing that, they merged their teams, thereby amassing a huge amount of talent and avoiding driving up the cost of trying to take each other's players. Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it, Travis? Frank said, "Hell no, I can't stand that SOB." So then Buddy went back to Coy, made the same proposal to him. Coy said the exact same thing. But as those of you who have been around long enough will remember, Buddy prevailed, and the two sponsors merged, and their teams ended up being Rich's Superior. Richard Superior won the 91 and 92 World Series, giving Coy 3 series championships in a row. Coy remained on board for 1993 and then retired after that season. When Coy sponsored the Richard Superior team, there were 4 major level association championships. In 91, 92, and 93, Richard Superior won 10 of the 12 championships, establishing an overall 242 and 22 record. Major level teams Coy sponsored have to date had 16 players placed in the USSSA Hall of Fame. To my knowledge, only one other current sponsor or manager in the game has had more. That's Dave Neal. Coy Honeycutt was a special individual in our game. He was generous, he was funny, he usually did exactly what he said he'd do, and his teams won, establishing a level of achievement that places them among the elite. And he most certainly is deserving of being placed into the USSSA Hall of Fame. Accepting on behalf of Coy is his wife, Karen Honeycutt.
Well, I don't know a lot of y'all because I wasn't around during the baseball or softball years, but I know that's all he'd ever talked about. He loved it when Charles Wright and Dave and them would come and see him and visit him and spend time with him. And I know he would have loved this. So I want to thank y'all. I want to thank all the players that played for him and USSSA for doing this for him. I know he would have loved it.
Thank you, Karen. Our 4th inductee tonight is in the executive category. He's traveled here from Sterling Heights, Michigan. He is Mr. Tony DiDonatis. And now to learn more about the many, many contributions that Tony has made to USSSA and to the game of softball, please turn your attention to the video screens.
My first experience with slow pitch softball was in 1978. I was just, it was during the summer. I just left junior college, was anticipating or deciding on whether I was going to pursue a professional baseball career, and Don conned me into playing slow pitch softball in a church tournament. Got the bug like everybody else, and just the end result. Well, it's special. I mean, we try to, that's what we're doing it now as directors, is keeping the game going and creating opportunities for the younger generation to come in and kind of follow the footsteps that we all did. As a director, I'm most proud of being able to run 20-plus world tournaments, and I think just keeping the program going, keeping the program strong, changing with the times and changing with the new technology, and it's kind of exciting. It's something new to learn. Well, the DiDonatis family's has played a big role in USSSA. I mean, I kind of just grew up with it. Junior grew up with it. My brother started it, obviously, in Michigan, and we've grown up with it, and I think it's, I think the USSSA is now our extended family. It's very special for me to be a part of the National Hall of Fame. It's something I would have never dreamed of. I was a good player, played on some good teams, but I could have never accomplished it as a player. And I was able to as a director. I was fortunate. So it's a select group. There's a lot of people, a lot of history there, and it's very special.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Tony, here is his brother, and our host for the evening, the chairman of the board and CEO of USSSA, Mr. Don DeDonatis.
Thank you. What do I say? Where do I begin? How do I put in just a few words all the things that you need to know about this man who I've known all my life? Well, I thought I might start by telling you a few things about him that I think you don't know. First and foremost, Tony is a perfectionist and disciplined like no other. He is passionate about all he does and all he believes in. Whenever I've needed him for anything, he has never let me down. I couldn't ask for a better brother. He's a single parent with a love for dogs, with only one goal in life, to see his son David succeed. He will do whatever it takes to make sure that happens. He has a great sense of humor. Seriously, when he gets on a roll, he can light up a room. All these qualities so often lay hidden behind his gruff exterior, his hard shell. Often intimidating, tough and shy, only those closest to him get to know the true Anthony Santino DeDonatis. He is being inducted tonight in the executive category, but quite honestly, he could have been inducted as a player. He was a gifted athlete, a 3-sport star in his younger days. He was heavily recruited out of high school with the possibility of a professional baseball career. Instead, he elected to attend college, where he was actually scouted by the same person who would later become famous for signing Derek Jeter. His hopes for the pro career ended through his last year of college, when an unfortunate injury to his hand caused him to give up the game he loved. As they say, when one door closes, another one opens. With my involvement in slow pitch, it was only natural that Tony began a prosperous softball career, playing basically with all the best teams ever out of Michigan. For many years, he competed at the top level, taking home championships, rings after year. He is competitive in nature, but that is his competitiveness that drives him to succeed, and with every challenge he is presented with. Tony's career began while I was still state director of Michigan, as I started to travel more for my expanding duties within the organization. It was necessary to find someone to handle the day-to-day operations of one of the largest state programs in the country during my absence. Not realizing that this temporary arrangement would become permanent, Tony jumped in, and in 1998, with the executive director passing Al Ramsey, I was given an opportunity to take the reins of USSSA. Within a span of 3 weeks, it was necessary for me not only to move to Virginia, but name a replacement for my state program. It was meant to be. Who was more prepared than Tony? Devoted to seeing this legacy continue, he earned the title of Michigan State Director. He took over and never looked back, and a few years later was named Vice President of the Great Lakes Division. Even though he began his career as slow pitch as a director, he has embraced the USSSA transition to multi-sport. Currently, he registers several programs for flag football, soccer, and other ones. In addition, he can often be found assisting baseball and fast pitch. His experience and leadership that has carried him to the highest level. Tony is a hands-on director who knows his players and teams. He has even changed with times, running a very successful Facebook program page. Today, I'm proud to say that in 2014, Michigan has the largest registration in the slow pitch program. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pride and pleasure to introduce my familia, Tony DeDonatis. Thank you. My speech wasn't very long to begin with, and between the video and your induction, it's got even shorter. But anyway, I enjoyed my career beginning as a player. I have some people that came from some of my old teammates, and I'd like to mention them. Hall of Famer Chuck Druitz and Hall of Famer Chuck Majorana, two of my former teammates. Thanks, you guys, for coming. I appreciate it. I basically only played for 3 people. The team names changed over the years. I'd like to acknowledge them, Don being one of them, Hall of Fame manager Lou Calvisi, and Dick Cagle. Thanks for you guys. I appreciate all the memories, and I'll always cherish them. I would like to thank next my city program. Obviously, Mike Dembecki is my assistant from back home. He's our UIC, and thanks, Mike. Thanks for coming. I'd like to thank our city programs, our parks and recreations. Some of them have been loyal to USSSA since its inception over 35 years ago. Appreciate them. They've been a backbone. We've had, I'd like to thank our past and UICs and directors that have built the program and helped establish it with Don. All I did is continue it on. They laid the groundwork. We have a few private-owned facilities, Liberty Park in particular. It's kind of been my second home since 1997, I think, the fall of. They just celebrated their 30th year, all USSSA. Been loyal to Don before me and USSSA for over 30 years with unwavering support. Thank you, we appreciate it. Hopefully it will continue long into the future. Last I know, I don't know if anybody in here remembers my parents. If you ever met 2 people, I don't think you'd ever meet 2 people that thought more of USSSA slow pitch softball than them. I know they're here somewhere in this room. Proud that I'm joining Don in the National USSSA Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank them for all their support and everything they gave me through the years. And I miss them always. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Tony. Next up on our agenda tonight is the presentation of the 2014 Assistant Executive Director Awards. To present the first of these awards, it is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Danny Brown, Assistant Executive Director of USSSA.
Thank you. As Jim and I have said previously, selecting an individual for an award is no easy task. With so many qualified individuals in this organization, selecting just one is difficult. Historically, there are several common denominators that tonight's and previous recipients exemplify. Here are just a few. They're competitive, meaning they strive to be the best at what they were responsible for. They are respectful of the organization and our customers. Their values are similar for family, friends, and those they interact with. Many have worked under the radar, so to speak, meaning you know who they are, but you never see the depth nor the effort put forth to accomplish their goals or responsibility. And we have just that individual to acknowledge this evening. During our recipient's tenure with USSSA, he has filled multiple positions: umpire, state umpire-in-chief, national assistant umpire-in-chief, tournament director, area director, and now as co-state director during a transition to a new state director. While performing these various jobs, who knows how he found time to perform his full-time job of managing a supermarket for a major grocery chain. He and his wife are the proud parents of 3 children who have blessed him with 6 grandchildren, 1 to come, and yes, he does spoil those grandparents at every opportunity. Besides performing the aforementioned positions with USSSA, what makes him so special to our organization? To begin with, here are some of the previous awards he has received. The Dwight Hall Spark Plug Award, the National Umpire Chiefs Award, inducted into both his home, state, and the USSSA National Hall of Fame, the Award of Merit, and now this evening, the Assistant Executive Director Award. You ask, what has our recipient done to receive this award? He certainly has been acknowledged previously. It all started in 2002 and has continued through this year, totaling 13 years and hopefully many more years to come. Since 2002, the breadth of work, time requirement, and responsibility has increased dramatically. As our September World Tournaments have grown, imagine moving to Orlando for nearly a month. Every year, not in the winter, but September, when the heat and humidity have yet to disappear, especially when you are from a state with no humidity and never gets over 80 degrees. Why is our recipient coming to Florida? Players, coaches, fans, they see umpires show up to work a game, and they leave. No thought as to where they came from, assuming they all live in Florida. Not true. Officials for the World Tournaments that encompass over 500 teams, nearly 30 fields, with over 1,400 games being played over 3 weekends. Think about it. Who recruits the umpires, locally and nationally? Who schedules them? Who pays them? Who reschedules them with multiple delays due to rain, lightning, just quite often here in Florida? Of course, he doesn't do it all by himself. He has a great team put together, and they are all to be congratulated. As I said earlier, he works under the radar, respectful to all, competitive, and an individual I'm proud to call a friend. From the state of Washington, please welcome the 2004 Assistant State Executive Director Award recipient, Mr. Dale McGregor.
Danny just never quits coming up with surprises. I'd never get this award without the people I've worked with. It's just been an honor to come out here every year. Everybody says, are you coming back next year? And I says, I don't know. I get home and miss everybody and think, yes, I got to come back another year. It's a great team we put together here, and it's just an honor to walk into that national office and all the help we get. Thank you very much.
And now to present the second 2014 Assistant Executive Director Award, Mr. Jim Swint.
Well, as Danny said, every year it's difficult to pick, and every year we have more and more deserving directors that are out there in USSSA that this award could be given to. For 2014, I determined that there was one person that stood out
not only for their work in the state program, but for going above and beyond the call of duty at the national level. This person interviewed for a state director position in the early 2000s and was chosen from some 8 or 9 applicants. Hitting the ground running, the state program took off, and within a few years was producing numbers to rank right up there at the very top. Every year I try to draw it out a little bit and go as far into my discussion of the person as I possibly can before giving away who it is, but this year I found that it was simply impossible to do because of the numbers and the effort and the job that this person has done. So, the sport is baseball, and counting global registrations, 3,940 teams played in the state program in 2014, making it the 4th largest in the country. In addition, this director hosted 2 Super NITs that had a combined total of 912 teams. Pretty unbelievable. I'm glad I'm not still running tournaments. At the national level, this director has been invaluable. He serves as a baseball vice president, sits on the Baseball National Committee. In addition, his personality, his people skills, and his organization have made him as valuable as any USSSA tournament ever. He can schedule and then reschedule with rain. He can run a manager's meeting. He can deal with players, coaches, parents, umpires. He can keep social media up to date, handle a first-class award ceremony, and then move on to the next event. In 2014, he served for 2 weeks as tournament director for the USSSA Elite World Series held here in Orlando. He went on the road for a week to run the Louisville Slugger West Coast Championship in California. And as if that was not enough, he spent 2 weeks as tournament director for the Road to Memphis Championship. He is definitely the Energizer Bunny of USSSA because he just goes and goes and goes, but also because he marches to the beat of his own drum, which is very oftentimes a little bit off key. After speaking to his wife and getting some photos, I can confirm that he has some 80 different pairs of tennis shoes in a custom-built closet in their home. Imelda Marcos needs to move over. I present to you the 2014 Assistant Executive Director Award winner, Matt Trebishon. Yeah, and I think he's got one of those outfits on right now.
Before I even say anything, I'm going to thank my wife. And I have to thank my wife because the last 3 times I've won an award, I have forgotten to thank my wife. So I figured that if I wanted to be able to go home tomorrow, I need to thank my wife. So, honey, I love you. Thank you very much for working behind me and with me. I greatly appreciate it. This is just a dream. I love it. It's amazing that I get paid to do what I do. If I could afford to, I would do it for free. Obviously, I can't, so I'll continue to take the money. But I've really enjoyed it. The opportunities that have been given to me, offered to me by Joey Odom and Rick Fortuna, Don, Danny, Jim, the whole board, everybody involved in USSSA. the vice presidents that work alongside me, Frank Griffin and Scotty Mobley, Bob Egger, Travis Lemming, gosh knows, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. Anyway, guys, thank you very, very much. Thank you, USSSA, because it has been a wonderful ride, and I just look forward to continue to get better and better. Thank you.
Congratulations to Matt. Our 5th Hall of Fame inductee tonight is in the female player category. She hails from Cincinnati, Ohio, and she is Miss Tina Mae Tuck. Now, once again, let's turn our attention to the video boards to learn more about Tina's celebrated and illustrious career on the softball diamond.
Sports have been a big part of my life. My career, I'm an athletic director at a high school, so obviously softball, basketball, volleyball, everything I played has been a part of my career now too. Probably one of the biggest things I'm most proud of is my defense. I started off at shortstop, and one of the moves they made was my arm, believe it or not, they said was too strong to play infield, so they moved me to the outfield, which at first I was like, what, you know, but now I was glad, and I loved playing the outfield. I got to play with great outfielders all through my career. Hitting, I was always batted around 4, 5, and 6 on the team. Hard line drive hitter. Probably my most memorable hit was the 3-run homer that put us into the World Championship in 1986. Hit it over the center field fence, so everybody will talk about that home run probably for the rest of our lives because it's always brought up every time we bring it around. Being named to a Golden Glove in the outfield to me, was one of my biggest accomplishments because most of the time, you know, your Golden Glove goes to your shortstop or your pitcher, but I received it several times, and that meant more to me than, you know, not that, I mean, All World obviously was the ultimate gift, but to get named a Golden Glove, it says a lot because if you know the kind of outfielders I played with and played against, to be in that situation, to be able to receive that award meant a lot to me. As a team, our biggest achievement would have probably been 86, 87, and 88. We won the World Tournament all 3 years in a row, beating teams like, you know, the Illusions and just really great teams from all over the country. Just being on a team where I truly believe it was a team. There was no all-stars. All of us contributed to make that 86, 87, and 88 such an experience that I'll never forget. Being a female, getting to go in the Hall of Fame, this is the ultimate for a female softball player. There's no higher level than you can go, and USSSA is such a classy program and things they do for the women athletes all through my playing experience and now getting to experience this. I'm just grateful. I'm humble and grateful that they chose me to go into such a prestigious Hall of Fame.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Tina, here's her teammate, friend, and fellow Hall of Famer, Ms. Pam Patras.
Once upon a time, in Cincinnati softball land, some 30 years ago, a young tomboy named Tina Mae. Tina loved team sports. She loved basketball, and she especially loved slow-pitch softball. At a very young age, Tina was recruited to play with the big girls. She was only 16. Before long, she was a member of a team called Famous Recipe, and that is when I met my sister Tina. In the early days of our softball career, we played for a team that really didn't have a sponsor. We were supposed to be sponsored by Famous Recipe, but instead we were more or less sponsored by our veteran players, Jan Dieters and Jenny Johnson. The younger players really didn't know any of the particulars about what it took to field a team, have money to enter tournaments, get hotel rooms, and make travel arrangements. We'd just show up and play. It's a good thing we played well and won some tournaments, because we often won our entry fee back for winning the tournament. It wasn't long before the elders hooked us up with Joe and Carol Karajev, who owned Empress Chili. From that point on, Sister Tina and I had the best times of our lives. Picture this: 2 broke girls, new teachers, making less than $15,000 a year, getting to play a game we loved, traveling around the United States, meeting new people, staying in hotels, breaking rules and curfews, getting an occasional team meal, having Colleen and the elders telling us what to wear, where to be, what time to show up and play, all because we loved chasing a little white ball around. It was priceless. We had our manager, Colleen Needham, making all the travel arrangements and trying to keep our younger players out of trouble. Our team always had a good mix of experienced players, a handful of young whippersnappers, plus some very consistent and competitive players. Tina and I were very much alike, yet we were also quite different. We'll start off with the differences between Tina and I. Tina was an outfielder, I was an infielder. Tina could hit the ball over the fence, I could never. Tina was fast on the base paths, I was a liability. Tina could jump, I couldn't. Tina could dive, I never could. Tina could judge a fly ball, I struggled with them. But as for being alike, neither of us had a sister. We grew up with brothers. We both are teachers. We even lived together for a few years. We were competitive, and we always hated to lose. In our 20s, we both had our share of drama, mostly off the field, and we both cut off our sleeves of our t-shirt uniforms so we would be cooler. We'd work out together and drive to tourneys in the little red sports car. We'd be driving with the top down, music blasting, and Tina would look at me and say, "Look at this. You know what that is? That's my new muscle." We loved playing the game and we loved winning, but when we lost, we wanted to go home. We didn't care what time it was. We were in the car, heading home because we hated being losers. And lastly, we both liked to have fun and enjoyed the sisterhood that Empress Chili Softball provided. I came up with the top 10 reasons Tina Mae Tuck deserves to be a Hoffer. Number 10, Tina was dependable. She was never a flake. She'd come to all the games ready to play and always played hard. Number 9, Tina was fast. She had good wheels on the bases, and she came up with the big plays in the outfield. Number 8, she had a strong arm. I always loved watching runners try to take an extra base on her. Number 7, she could put the ball over the fence or come up with a gooby gapper at any moment. Number 6, Tina could turn a single into a double or go from first to third in a flash. She was always hustling. Number 5, she was durable, healthy, and strong. She wasn't a wussy, and she was never hurt. Number 4, Tina was the best dancer on the team. Number 3, she could run like a gazelle and dive to make the big plays in the outfield. Number 2, Tina could get along with almost anyone on our team, so that made room arrangements easy for Colleen, unlike some of us. And number 1, Tina never drank, so she never had a hangover, and she was still always the life of the party. She loved her Empress Chili team, and she always loved playing ball. So, Sister Tina, I leave you with this one last item I found on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. Nobody will ever be able to understand your craziness like your sister, and although you don't see each other as much as you like, she will always remain your friend and be there when you need her the most. While people come and go in your life, your softball sister will be in your heart for a lifetime. I'd like to welcome the newest Empress Chili Dog to the Hall of Fame, my sister, Tina Mae Tuck.
Well, they told us to keep it short, and the men have been winded, so the women will have to keep it short, huh? That's just a joke. That's just a joke. First off, I'd like to start by saying how grateful I am to be standing here. Thank you to the USSSA committee for putting me in here. It's an honor, very prestigious honor. I was blessed with an athletic ability that a lot of women were not blessed with, and I got to experience this at a level of play that most women never get to level, and that was playing with Empress Chile. This team is by far, I think, the best women's team in the 80s that there ever was, and I was fortunate to play with that. But I started at the age of 14. I was asked to play b-ball with Myra Burwell. If anybody knows Myra, she was a great coach and disciplinarian, and she was the one that got me going into this level of ball. I then began, after that, I joined Famous Recipe, which you heard about, became Empress Chili, which is the best sponsors, and Joe and Carol are here, and I want to thank them for sponsoring Empress Chili. They're the best sponsors you'll ever play for right there. I joined Empress when I was 16. Everybody was a lot older than me. I couldn't drive at the time, so I had my aunt and uncle who are with me tonight, my Uncle Larry and my Aunt Diane, who are here. They drove me to the tournaments because I wasn't old enough yet to drive, and I didn't have a car, so I want to thank them for their endless hours that they did to support me. This would never have happened without my brothers. And the brother that's here tonight, my brother Larry, used to take me out in the backyard, and he's a phenomenal athlete, and he would throw and hit balls at me as hard as if I was one of his friends. So I think I was catching the ball because I was afraid I was going to die if I didn't. He could throw the ball at 90 miles an hour as a pitcher, so I want to thank him for developing me into the ball player that I was for 25 years. It was a long, steady career, and it was a great career. I also want to thank my Empress Chili people that are here with me tonight that were part of mine. Janet Anderson, my roommate, my teammate, thank you for everything. Colleen and Jan, I can't thank you guys enough for everything you did for me. And Pam, the one that spoke on my behalf, was just a great teammate. And Jenny Johnson, if you know, is the first woman inducted in the Hall of Fame, was my roommate a lot. So she had the little rookie in her room a lot, and she had to keep my head straight. And it's just such a pleasure to have you here with me tonight, Jenny, to experience this. You were a big part of my softball career, in case you didn't know that. And there's a couple other that aren't here tonight. Renee Fitzgerald, Mary Stropman were also big people that helped me, roommates, to hit my head straight on. But all these wouldn't happen without your family and friends. I want to thank my husband, who in our early marriage, I was traveling all the time, not home a lot. He was patient. Then my career has led me from a teacher to an athletic director. He has been if he wants to see me, he has to come to the games. My high school football team right now is playing in the regional championship in the state of Ohio. So I have two things going on tonight that are exciting in my life, this and my career as an athletic director, and I want to thank him for being there and my support group. For my family that's here tonight, I have two of my nieces here, my godchild, my niece's husband, and my mentor from the school I taught at, who hired me, came from Naples, Florida to be here tonight, Bill Fridman. I want to thank him for coming. You just don't realize what kind of athlete you are until you see your support group. And without everyone that I've been able to say, and I've missed a lot, I'm sure, I would never have been the ball player and made it the way I am today. In conclusion, there's not enough time to thank everyone and how it's touched my life. I know athletes made me the person I am today, and I'm humbled by this honor. And I thank everyone for making it possible. Thank you again to the USSSA.
Congratulations again, Tina. Our sixth inductee tonight is in the male player category. His name is Dirk Androff. Dirk originally hailed from Decatur, Illinois, but as you all know, he was snatched away from us far too soon. He left behind an enormous sports legacy and an incredible softball career that included a USSSA World Series MVP award and multiple World Series championships. I have no doubt that tonight Dirk is looking down on us from heaven above, and I'm sure that the time we will spend reflecting on his softball career will bring a smile to his face. Now I would ask that everyone turn their attention to the video screens so we can hear a bit more about the Blaster's illustrious career.
On hitting, it's two things. One, the key to this game is not making outs, which means you have to be able to hit the ball to all fields hard, not placing the ball at different fields, but being able to aggressively go to each field. And secondly, home runs are not the key to this game. The key is not making outs. So you can be, batting average is the key to this game. If you can have a good batting average and you get a lot of team members with good batting average, you're going to win a lot of games. And too many B and C players think that the only way you're respecting this game is to hit home runs. And I personally, my goal every year is to lead the country in batting. Bottom line. Home runs, fine, but batting average is key. I want people to know me as a tough out.
I want you to meet one of the greatest softball players of all time. Right here, Dirk Androff. I think you know him. Yeah. These fellows went to college together. Two great athletes in their respective sports. What makes you guys great athletes? What is it?
For me, it's just a lot of hard work off the field, a lot of dedication with the weights and a lot of practice.
Dirk was what you would say the best type of team concept ball player. I mean, everything was team first. Well, award-wise, he was the MVP of the Smoky Mountain. The one year he out-homered me and a couple of guys from Steels, and he ended up with 413, so he was a national home run champ. He did that at a very young age. He had only been with us a little bit. And when we picked him up to be on our team, it was a great thing because we knew he had potential, but we knew that it was going to take a little time, a little bit of exercise program, weightlifting, batting practice to get him where we wanted him to be. The softball world really lost a legend before his time because he was that good of a ball player. He had built himself up in such a recognition, such a legend about himself that quick that there was no telling what he could accomplish. And the size of him, 6'7", 305 pounds, strong as anybody. And like I said, he could do anything. He could hit the ball anywhere. He could play defense. He worked at it. And what we have missed all these years is to see what he really would have accomplished. And I hate to say this, but I believe he probably would have been the best softball player of all time.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Dirk. Just saw him on the video, and now you can see him in person. His teammate, his friend, his fellow Hall of Famer, Mr. Mike Masinko.
Thank you, sir. This is a different type of thing to accept or present, but I'll try to do my best at it and be kind of like Dirk, because he was a special individual. And I know if he was here, he would want to thank all the other players, because that's the kind of guy he was. He was a great teammate, and he would thank Carl and Tina, and I like that guy Bobby over here, Hughes, wherever he's at. I'd like to spend a couple of nights with him myself. But Dirk, like I said, he was a special kind of an athlete, and the wild part about him was how he come and met me in a parking lot at 11:30 at night and told me what he wanted to do. Like Bobby said, we have goals. Well, I knew what his goal was. He told me at 11:30 at night in the parking lot, he says, I want to play with you guys. I said, you want to play with us? And we had just got to play an exhibition game in Belleville, Illinois, and that was kind of where he was living at the time. He was a high school football coach. He was married. You know, he was a teacher. To me, I thought that was kind of like an ultimate goal for a person, just to be all that stuff and be happy. And he kind of reminded me like of Jimmy Johnson, was with Miami, and all of a sudden this guy says, well, I'm going to divorce my wife, Jimmy Johnson, because I want to be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, Dirk wanted to give all that up to play with us in softball. I told him I thought it was a little crazy, but if that's what you want to do, let's see if we can't make it happen for you. And that's kind of what we did. The next day, Mr. Neal says, Mike, we're going to take a look at this kid. And just so happened when he met me in that parking lot at 11:30 at night, it was Ramada Inn, and my coach Dave was there, and I said, well, now's not a good time to talk to my coach about playing ball for our team. He says, why not? And I said, well, because Larry Perdue told him tonight that he could outdrink him. He says, really? And I says, yeah. And I said, you don't want to talk to him tonight, believe me when I tell you. So tomorrow we'll go hit some, and we'll see where we go from there. So the next day we did. We went out, took some batting practice. And at the time, he weighed about 250 pounds, and he could hit the ball a mile at that time. And so me, Kenny Laurie, Monty Tucker, and Dave, and they said, what do you think? I said, yeah, let's give him a little trial period here. So we give him a 10-day trial workout. That next day, we played in Burlingame, Iowa. So it was a baseball stadium exhibition game, and we're getting out there, and Dave says, so where do you play, Dirk? He says, well, left center. He says, you play left center? He says, yeah, I play left center. He says, okay, get out there in left center. So he goes out to left center, and a couple of balls are hit out there, and he's kind of circling them and not catching them. And he comes back in. He says, you sure you play left center? He says, yeah, I play left center. He said, okay, well, come on back in here and play third base now. So he played third base. So we brought him on a team, and we kept him after that period. Now, this is 1988. And during that course of that season, there was a team called Smythe Sox, who was the reigning USSSA world champions. And their team broke up right at the Smoky Mountain. And Dave says, well, I don't want to lose to these guys. I said, well, they don't have a team anymore. How are we going to lose to them again? He says, well, I'm going to take cap their team. So he did. He put all these players, Bruce Meade, Buddy Slater, Larry Perdue, Doug Brown, and Dirk on our team. So now we're going to play our season and go to different tournaments. And then at the time, there were special rules that USSSA had at the time. We actually got to Long Beach to play for the World Series, and we actually won our first World Series, but none of those guys could play, not even Dirk. So we beat Howard's, and I think, I forget the other team, but we beat them for the championship. And it was disappointing because I don't know to this day if they ever got rings for that. Our team did, but were those guys part of our team at that time? And so that was a disappointing time there for those players that played with us. But it didn't last long, because the next year is when we had our 1990 Steels team. And like I said, after 89 we played, and Dirk led our team in home runs that year. He had out-homered all of us. And you could see what he was capable of doing. And the thing that he kept doing was he always worked out. And Chrissy here, his wife, can tell you. When we get back from tournaments and stuff like that, as soon as we get back, you know, she'd maybe want to watch a movie, do something. Dirk would want to go to the gym. Dirk would want to go out and run 2 miles. And that's just the way he was built. And he used to get on me because he'd say, come on, Mike, let's go run 2 miles in the morning. I started laughing. I says, you go ahead and run them for me, okay? And I said, I'll be here when you get back. So, you know, maybe 3 or 4 times I went and I actually did them with him, you know, and Dave would say, oh, man, good job, Mike. And I just started laughing. I said, okay. And then Dirk, another thing that he thrived on, he had to read the USA Today sports page every day. And that kind of made me jealous, because him and Dave were starting to get this relationship together. I said, you know, I thought I was his guy. And all of a sudden now Dirk's his guy, because they're talking ball with that newspaper every day. And so, you know, as we went along there, Dirk, he got into his head, but it was all good stuff that he ever did. But like I said, he was a workout maniac, and if you saw right there on that video, You know, he wanted to bat 800. He didn't care about hitting them home runs because, you know, that's not a sickness, but it's something that everybody in this room has played softball. It's like, you know, you want to hit them home runs. You know, I always wanted to hit home runs, but I didn't try to hit home runs. You work on that swing, and Dirk worked on his swing. So as we went along, you know, there's some people here I would like to, well, they're not here, but these were his teammates that they had like a togetherness with. And that was players like Todd Jerling, who's in the Hall of Fame, Dan Shook, I think he's in the Hall of Fame, Doug Roberson, he's in the Hall of Fame, Rick Weiderman, Hall of Fame, Red Hightower, Ronnie Parnell, Charles Wright. These were all his teammates. And they just had a togetherness that was something else. Now, they put their team together in 1991 because in 1990, our Steels team, we were close to winning all 4 of them, the Grand Slam. And we got beat by, I forget, Lighthouse for the championship. So we win the first 3, but we didn't win the 4. The next year, he went with Richard Superior. So I kind of felt like they put this team together to beat our team. But all in all, it was a great thing because our team folded. So he played with Richards in 91, and then in 92, they won the Grand Slam of softball. What they did with that team was really something special. Now teams, I think Dan Smith's team or Long Haul won all 4 championships since that time. But what they did in 92 was really something special. And one of the things with Dirk, that's when he met his wife, Chrissy. And when he met his wife, Chrissy, it just seemed like his life was complete, full. He was happy all the time. And so it's a real tragedy that things happen in the way that they happen. You know, it's that thing where you count your blessings because the next day, you know, it could be all over with. And that's a tough part to talk about. But, you know, we had a little boy named Dirk Jr. who's here, and he looks just like Dirk. You know, he's got all the same features of him. And so he lives on in his son here. And I'm happy as can be that his boy is, you know, he's a great basketball player. So, you know, his dad was a great basketball player. As you saw there with Duckworth in that video. He played at Eastern Illinois with Duckworth, and I think Dirk walked on as a tryout with the Jets. He was a great athlete. And the thing about what I said there is, seriously, there was no telling how good this guy was going to be. He was already great, but there was that chance that he was going to be to me, I thought I was a pretty good ball player, but I think he'd have been better than me. So, you know, it was tough back then, but because I sometimes would get jealous myself. I said, man, this guy, he really is something, ain't he? But I'm happy for him. I'm happy. I mean, I'm not happy where he's at, but I'm happy for the things that he accomplished in his career. You know, like I said, he loved to work out. I'll tell you a quick story about him one time, and he always liked to hit the middle. So Dave would flip-flop us. You know, we'd go for a while. I lead off, Dirk bat second. Sometimes Dirk bat first, I bat second. So it didn't matter. You were going to get, you know, we're going to hit it. Well, we were playing in Detroit at a tournament, and before the game, I'm playing with Richards now. So Mr. Neal, he didn't like that I went to Richards and joined these guys. So right before the game starts, he hollers out. He goes, time for one of our friendship games. And I says, why you always got to say that crap, Dave? I'll try not to swear, but why you got to say that crap? And he says, friendship games, man, I hate them. So next thing you know, I'm swearing at the guy. Now, my wife's sitting right behind me over here, my mother-in-law. My wife's screaming, Mike, will you cut it out? So I say something to her, not right, and then we start the game. And this guy, Jason McCrae, is pitching for Dave. And Dirk's the first batter of the game. And I'm not lying to you, but he hit a line shot. It hit Jason in the chest. And Jason backed and almost fell to the ground. He should have fell down. I don't know why he didn't. But he was like staggering back. Now, Mr. Neal is hollering out at the top of his lungs. Pick it up, throw him out. Pick it up, throw him out. You know, the ball's over there. And Dirk ran out to first base and got a single with it. But, you know, right after the game was over with, and I think he did it between the games, you know, he went over and asked Jason, were you okay? You know, I wasn't trying to do that. And he wasn't. But I'm telling you, that was the most vicious line drive I've ever seen anybody hit. You know, and Mr. Neal's over there going, pick it up, throw him out. I says, it's not going to happen today. Anyways, I've been up here talking long enough, and all I know is that this is, like I said, it's a shame what happened because Dirk, there really is no telling how good he could have become. He worked at the game so much, so hard, that it was unbelievable. And so it's my honor here to introduce his son, who's as proud as can be. So here's Dirk Androff Jr.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the good Lord for allowing all of this to happen. I'd like to thank Don and Lori for your organization and taking care of us, and the USSSA Hall of Fame Committee for inducting my father, Dirk Androff Sr., in this amazing organization. If my dad were up here today, he'd probably start off by talking about his teammates, complimenting his coaches, and telling you all how great everyone is that have been involved with him and the USSSA has been to him. Softball was one of the biggest parts of my father's life. Besides my mom, his friends, his family, myself, and the TV he bought so that he could watch the Super Bowl the day I was born, softball was everything to him. He was a selfless man and always put his peers before himself. His whole life he was a family man. If he were up here, he would no doubt be thanking my grandparents for doing such a great job raising him. It is a great honor to be here with some of his best friends and teammates, and it's an even bigger honor to be able to accept his placement into the Hall of Fame for him. My dad was such a hard worker. Every night, while all of his competitors would be asleep, he'd be in the gym getting better. He spent countless hours working at being the best. He is my inspiration and what drives me to work harder than everyone else in order to achieve my goals. Thank you to everyone who helped make this possible. Thank you and happy birthday to Mike Masinko for all the help he has provided for my mom and I and keeping in touch with us throughout the years. And thank you, Frank Webb, for being a great best friend to my father and helping him through all of his hardships. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Our seventh inductee tonight is also in the male player category. He hails from Jessup, Georgia. He is Mr. Carl Rose. Now, to learn a bit more about the incredible softball career Carl had and the dramatic impact he made on the game, let's turn our attention to the video screens.
I began playing around '89. We started playing in U-Trip. You know, Don had made U-Trip. He worked it so much till it became, you know, what you wanted to play. The U-Trip World Series was the tournament that you wanted to win every year. That's what you worked forward to. That's what you really put your teams together for, was to get to the World Series. Well, most of the tournaments we played during the year were U-Trip, you know, building the points to get to the World Series. When I started, you know, U-Trip already had, it was the top tournament at the time as far as World Series go. I guess the biggest memory with U-Trip was probably the first World Series we won in Daytona Beach when myself and Dennis Mendoza, we turned a double play to finish the championship game. That would be our biggest memory. Well, you know, it's an honor. It really tells a lot about the teams and teammates I had over the years. It really allowed me to have the time to play, to put together the numbers so that your peers feel you're good enough for the honor. Yeah, back when I started, I guess, Steve Crave and Kenny Carver are actually the ones that talked to Cecil Alford of Lighthouse back in '88 to give me a shot, you know, of playing. You know, the first one I'd want to thank would be Cecil Alford. You know, he was the main one that got me started. You know, he was like a second dad to all of us. We were all very young when we started. Then the one who really pushed it over the top is Mike Cunningham of Worth. He's the one, he came to me. I just came along at the right time when Worth was trying to build, and with Mike Cunningham, and he got me to Worth and kept me with Worth. And can't say enough about him or Worth Sports and what all they did with me with the bat line and commercials and all. And they're really the ones that put it over the top for me. You know, when the guy Jason Kendrick was the first one to let me know, you know, last year that I'd been voted in, and you know, I just sat back, turned the TV off. It was a Friday night, and just reflected on actually the early days more than the later days. Judge, it was a wonderful career. Everyone I played with, I enjoyed. That's the one thing I missed from the game is the camaraderie with all the guys, seeing them every weekend. You know, and I just want to thank everyone I played with.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Carl, who's his former manager, his friend, and now his fellow Hall of Famer, Jackie Hayes.
Back in 1989, when the home runs were the big thing, you'd hear Mike Malcinko's name, Bruce Meade, you know, people like that. But in the early 90s, Carl came along, and I'd seen him out on the circuit, and I went on with Worth in '94, and he was in another world as far as hitting home runs. And he practiced hard all the time. He won the MVP in '97 when we won the U-Trip. I'm so nervous. When I come in the Hall of Fame, I want this nervous. Because I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for Carl Rose. He got me a contract with Worth to coach and help with the bats. And I think about the times, you know, we took batting practice and went all over the United States in home run things. But he certainly was a hard worker, like Dirk. But Dirk was a different kind of person, you know. He was worried about batting average, Carl was worried about home runs. But the home runs was a big thing. Carl won the home run crown 4 times out of 5 years. And he helped me pick up players, you know, tell me this player was that player was that. But I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for Carl Rose. And I'd like you all to welcome up him now. I'm about to cry because I'm so happy for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. And one thing I want to say about the home runs meaning so much, that was actually Worth that started that. Mr. Robert Perry sitting there, they're the ones that stayed on that about that. So, but first I want to thank Don, USSSA. You know, 25 years ago, who thought that slow pitch softball and USSSA would be here at this? You know, it's a dream Don had. I remember him telling me about it one day at one of the tournaments 25 years ago. And daggum if he didn't make it come true. So Don, thanks very much. And I also want to thank Miss Laurie for all she did, helping me get everything together to get down here with my family. I do appreciate it. The one thing that really pops into my mind, you know, when I hear this award was not all the good things that happened, you know, over the career. It was actually the beginning. Back when everything started, before anyone ever knew anything about me, I'm going to give a story of my inspiration, and I don't think he and I have ever had this conversation before. And we even played together a couple of years, and that's Mike Malcinko. I got released from the Pirates back in the 80s, and was kind of looking for something to do, and as most of us do, was playing, you know, local softball around South Georgia. Then one night I was watching TV, and Steel Silver Bullets were in Savannah, Georgia playing, and the big name was Mike Malcinko. You know, this time I hadn't heard about him, but I watched it, saw the films, all the places they were playing in the stadiums, and I said, you know, that's something I'd really like to do. I would like to put forth the effort and see. So, not knowing anything about super slow pitch at the time, I had 2 buddies that I'd mentioned earlier, Kenny Carver, who has since passed, lost him to throat cancer, and Steve Craven, 2 good friends of mine, were playing with Lighthouse at the time, and got a tryout. to go play with them in White Plains, North Carolina. So actually, we three drove on a Friday to North Carolina. We get there, the first game we're playing happens to be Steel Silver Bullets, which I thought was a pretty big coincidence. So my first at bat, you know, coming from baseball, thinking slow pitch softball, you're thinking there's not a whole lot to it. And first pitcher I faced was Craig Elliott. First at bat, I get to the plate, and this guy is jumping all around the mound, doing the fake pumps. You know, I've never seen this before. Playing around in South Georgia, you don't see this kind of stuff. So I'm standing there, and I'm just thinking, would the guy throw the ball? So he finally does, and so my first at bat, I hit a nice 17 hopper to the shortstop. So I'm thinking, okay, next at bat, I'm gonna work around it. When he's doing all that jumping around, I'll take the pitch. So next at bat, I took the first pitch after all of his commotion on the mound. So in the second pitch, he did none of that. Released the pitch, well, he had sped it up about 10 miles an hour, and of course I didn't recognize that until I was halfway in my swing and hit a nice deep drive that was caught about 3 feet behind third base. So this is the time I knew this super level softball was a whole different ball game. A lot of work had to be put in to get there. You know, this is where Cecil really came in. Like you said, he was like a second dad to us. You know, Cecil, he was inducted last year. Super guy. Can't thank him enough for what all he did for me in softball, which led to Mike Cunningham coming along. Mike Cunningham at the time was the national promotion director for Worth. We talked, we became with the bat deal and all, and the man above Mike who I really owe everything to was Mr. John Parrish, who was the owner of Worth. You know, Robert now carries on the tradition at Worth, you know, from Mr. John. He's the one that trusted me in the bat line. You know, a little guy who had nothing at the time in the softball world, was not a big name. He took a chance, and fortunately it really paid off, I do believe. I would like to thank, you know, my family couldn't be here. My parents could not be here. Of course, my dad, he passed away 7 years ago. My mother couldn't make it. And I really want to thank them. You know, as growing up, we all have to have our parents mostly who get us around to all of our games, carry us to, and really support us in what we do. And I really want to thank my mom, you know, for doing that all of the years, and my dad, and then my stepdad. You know, we talk about this coming around full circle with it from when I played U-Trip. You know, my 3 kids, my daughter Kendall, son CJ, son Austin, who now all play travel ball in USSSA. My daughter does no longer. She's now hit the 19. Well, the 2 boys are still in the middle of it. And it's a great organization for all of us. You know, then there's my rock, my wife Emily, who, you know, really means everything to me. Can't say it enough. And I do love you very much. And in closing, like I said, I'd like to thank USSSA, Don, for all he has done. And y'all have a great evening.
Congratulations again, Carl. It is now my pleasure to introduce, if you could come to the stage, Mr. Mark Linneman, who will be making a very special presentation this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Colleen, would you please bring everyone up here to the dais for our next presentation? Tonight, in conjunction with Tina Mae Tuck's induction into the USSSA Hall of Fame, USSSA is also going to provide her former sponsors and several of her former teammates with a memento that is long overdue. Back in 1986, Joe and Carol Karajev, owners of Empress Chili, agreed to sponsor a Cincinnati, Ohio women's team. For the next 11 years, the team dominated women's softball with a record of 685 and 189. From 1986 through 1990, they won 3 consecutive world tournaments, reached the finals of the world tournament 5 consecutive years, and captured 20 national invitational tournaments. And with Tina Mae Tuck's induction tonight, Empress has now produced 8 National Hall of Fame members. However, an unfortunate happenstance took place when Empress won the inaugural USSSA World Series in 1988. Unlike every team since then, Empress did not receive World Series rings. And tonight, USSSA's Board of Directors has graciously agreed to rectify that oversight. At this time, Don DeDonatis is going to present rings to 6 members of the Empress Chili 1988 USSSA World Series Championship team, along with their sponsors. I would like to ask everyone to please hold your applause until all the rings have been presented. First of all, Janet Anderson. Next, National Hall of Fame members, Jan Dieters. Jenny Johnson-Kappas. And Jeff, how could you forget to introduce Jenny when you were announcing all of our Hall of Fame members, arguably the greatest women's softball player who ever played, our former National Women's Director, Tina Mae Tuck. We're a little out of order here. That was Carol and Joe Karajev, the sponsors. And Tina, Pam Patras, and the team manager, Colleen Needham. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating these members of the 1988 Women's World Series Championship team, Empress Chili, on receiving their World Series rings.
Our 8th inductee tonight is in the director category. He is from Rockford, Illinois, and he is Mr. Ken Franzine. Before we turn to the videos, I can't help but break protocol a little bit here to say just a few personal words. Ken was the first boss I ever had. He gave me the first chance to work at Forest Hills Diamonds 30 years ago, and I would have never guessed it then, but he has been an incredible influence on my life. I can just say that I've really never had a happier moment on this stage than the one I have tonight to introduce him. So thank you for that indulgence. And now let's all turn to the video screens to learn a little bit more about the many, many ways Ken has contributed to USSSA and the game of softball over the last 40 years.
Well, after I got out of college, there was no more hardball in our area, so we went with our friends and we played slow pitch softball, and I've always been with USSSA, and after we got into it, it got very competitive, and I played on the world champion B team in '76, and after the body said no, I went to umpiring in USSSA, and now I'm a statistician at the World Series, so I've been involved all my life with USSSA. Well, I ran a complex in Rockford, Illinois, and two of the people that worked for me there are ex-students of mine, and they were hired by Al Ramsey to be the announcers at the World Series. So I went to Daytona to watch them announce, and they needed somebody to help out or give a break to the statistician, and I knew how to keep score and keep stats and knew the rules. So since then, Jim McCarron hired me, and for 20 years I've been here at the World Series, seeing every game but the ones at the Outer Diamonds. The most rewarding part, probably for me, is it's like a ball game. When I get here on Sunday, I have to be in the bottom of the seventh, and I have to have everything correct. A statistician can't make a mistake, and I've made a few, and we've caught them before the thing goes out, but it's got to be exact. It cannot be a mistake here and there, because they'll let you know about it. I have to thank Don DiDonatis for hiring me and having me come down here. I mean, I just come down here for the fun of it and enjoy, like I said, meeting everybody again and talking to people and then being involved in baseball. I still say when you're 85 years old, something will happen in softball or baseball that has never happened before, so you're always got something to look forward to.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Ken, I'm pleased to introduce his longtime friend and his golfing partner and his co-conspirator in many, many deeds, another man from the great city of Rockford, Illinois, Mr. Ken Paulson.
Some people get put in a special category because their contributions are unique and they don't fit into a category. And some people excelled in so many areas, it's hard to pick only one. That's the case with Ken. He's a special guy. Always been that way. He was a three-sport star in high school, got a football scholarship to a small school in Iowa. His freshman year, they dropped the baseball program, so he transferred to Illinois State, where he played football and baseball for 3 more years. If anyone asks him, he'll tell them he transferred because he missed baseball. But you see, there was a girl he dated in high school going to Illinois State. His last college baseball game is just a fond memory, but that pretty co-ed sitting out there with their 2 children. You decide why he transferred. He became a high school PE teacher and coach, officiating sports and playing slow pitch. He already told you they won the B in '76. I guess I should have known that. Didn't need to put that in here. He gave up playing to run Forest Hills Complex. They just built 2 diamonds next to their bowling center. And in 1978, he attended his first convention with Brenda and I, and he's only missed 1 since. He became the state UIC, held that position for 20 years. He was served on the National Playing Rules Committee for most of those years, training umpires, traveling throughout the state, but his most impressive accomplishments were at the Ball Diamond. He made those 2 diamonds a showplace, built the 3rd diamond, built a 4th diamond, and they were once awarded the USSSA Complex of the Year. He was committed to helping Brenda build an exceptional program. Let me tell you how committed he was. Brenda used to have her state meetings at different parts of the state, so nobody had to make a long trip, and she would have the directors in the morning. In the afternoon, Ken would come down for the umpire clinic. And we forgot the rule books at home one year, so we called Ken, asked him if he'd pick them up on his way down. Well, on his way to our house, he began to wonder what they do with their dog. You see, he knew Roxy because we had her at the ballpark a couple times, but he'd never been alone with her. And garden stuff's kind of what Rottweilers are good at. So he's kind of hoping that she couldn't read that "No Dogs Allowed" sign that was there when we took her to the park, and maybe she didn't remember him saying, "Get that dog out of here." He gets to the back door and he looks in, and there stands Rox in the kitchen. Well, a less committed man at that point would have said, hell no. Not Ken. He takes off his jacket, wraps it around his arm, just in case he has to hold off 125 pounds of muscles and teeth. Opens the door, and in he goes, and rocks, she can't believe her good fortune. Someone's come to play ball with her. Out the door she goes, and the biggest problem is getting her back in the kitchen so he can get on the road. Okay, whatever it took, Ken did it. On Sundays, he'd be at the park getting everything ready Sunday morning, and his family would come to pick him up for church. Well, the transition from that sweaty, chalky guy doing the diamonds to church ready, he hung a shower curtain on a hula hoop in his maintenance garage, and he would clean up with a garden hose. You used to use that shower, didn't you, Jeff? Yeah. Now, he was always, his family was important to him, although I think they always thought it was just for the cheap labor. I don't think son Chris was looking for work when Ken stuck him on the tractor at 9 years old. But he left Forest Hills 12 years ago. He took over the diamonds at a local community center. They built they had a great youth recreation program and lots of diamonds, and Ken turned them into 8 tournament quality diamonds and got involved with Brendan Fast Pitch. He still works there, but finally turned over some of his responsibilities to younger people. We held the Women's World Series in Rockford in '93, as he's already told you, and that started the other half of his contributions. He called Jeff and Kevin here, 2 high school kids that had worked for him. They were all out of high school now and well in their professional careers. They came back and announced for us and impressed Al Ramsey enough. He invited them to the Major World Series in '94. As he told you, he hung around and ended up with a job. USSSA doesn't look much like it did when we started. Things have to change to stay viable. They've done a good job changing what needs to be changed and keeping what works. Well, Ken and Jeff and Kevin, you must work, because that's the only thing Donnie hasn't had to tweak in the major program. They've been there 20 years doing the same thing. Just there they are, Don. Don't worry about it. You and I don't look like we did either then, Ken. We used to be a lot thinner. We used to stand a little taller. I wish I could say you had more hair, but that's pretty much always been it. Was in the late 70s. I was watching the Illinois high school basketball finals on television, and I called out to Brenda, hey, Ken's working the finals. So Brenda came out of the kitchen, and she's looking at the television. She says, I don't see Ken. I said, right there under the basket. She said, that guy's bald. When you're only that tall and everybody in your world wears a ball cap, I guess there's things you don't notice. That story's completely true, including the part about Brenda being in the kitchen. Donnie, you're probably going to be stuck with Ken until you run him off. You see, there's something you don't know about him. It was not a coincidence that his first convention in '78 was here in Orlando. In 1956, little Kenny Franzine became a charter member in the Mickey Mouse Club. He still has that membership card. When we were here in '78, he had it with him. I didn't understand why a grown man was walking around with a 20-year-old card, but after traveling with him for the last 35 years, I'm pretty sure it got him some sort of discount. Donnie, you've combined Disney, Major Softball, and ESPN Wide World of Sports Stadium. I'm sorry, Mary, but I don't see him stopping soon. My friend, Ken Franzine.
First of all, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for all the blessings I've been bestowed upon. I thank you for tonight. I'd like to congratulate everybody who has been inducted. This is a great class that I get to go in with, and I appreciate the Hall of Fame committee for nominating me. You cannot do it by yourself. You have to have people around you. And the people I want to thank tonight, you will see that I put myself in a pretty good company. First of all, I'd like our state director, Brenda Paulson. She's been state director for over 40 years. The first 5 years that I played ball in Illinois, we had 5 different state directors. She has been there, she's held this program. She's always in the top 10 in umpires, always top 10 in team registrations. 1978, as Ken said, she made me the umpire-in-chief for Illinois. Ken and I did all the clinics throughout the state of Illinois, did the national clinic in Milwaukee, which is very cold. I ran Forest Hills Diamonds for 25 years. Brenda had all the leagues sanction USSSA, all the tournaments for USSSA, and with Empress Lily here, I hope they can vouch for what I'm about to say. I think she ran the best women's NIT tournaments ever. We had 6 of the top 10 women's teams there every year. The changing point for me and for Rockford, Illinois was 1993 for bringing the World Series to Rockford. We had the A and we had the B there. Brenda, you did a fantastic job running that tournament. But as I'll talk to a little bit later, you'll see why I'm saying that this is so important to us. I know she's backed me in whatever I've done and kept writing letters and recommendations and all that. But I want to tell you, it was my honor and pleasure to work for you, Brenda, and with you, and to keep USSSA at Illinois. Illinois definitely will be missing you in your retirement. I thank you very, very much. My next person who is in the Hall of Fame, and it is Jim McCarron, and this is for Faye out there if you're watching. Jim is the one that I came up and helped out in '94. He hired me. I worked with him for 15 years as a statistician. As you all know, he was an Army person. He was so organized, and he was a very intelligent person. And he tutored me those 15 years. So when he passed on, it made it very easy for me to make the transition. But I do have to tell you one little funny story. Jim was so organized that we had a bag, it was his Army bag that was complete, I mean, it's this big, and today it is still that big, except for paper. That's the only thing I have replaced in that bag. But he has staplers. He even had hair dryers to take the dew off the window so we could see up there. But he had everything in there, staplers and everything else. And we still have that bag, and we use it still in the World Series. Next, I'd like to say Mr. Rick, who I sat on the Rules Committee twice, 2 different times. He came to Illinois, gave us our state umpire-in-chief clinic. We ran several tournaments together. I learned so much from you, Rick, at running tournament and also keeping the chart on the schedule. But a little side note I'd like to put in here right now. Kenny mentioned it a little bit. I've kept score at the World Series for 20 years, and the only games I think that I've missed are the games that are on the outer diamond when the stadium is going on, and the 4 games when we had the hurricane. We played the 1-pitch tournament at 1 o'clock in the morning. Jim let me go home to get some rest. And I want to tell you, Mr. Rick, and your umpires that are here tonight from the conference, you do a great job of umpiring. I think you deserve a good round of applause for the umpires. Next is just a good old friend. That's Hank Bassett. Hank, I'm telling you, you and Jim sat up there while I was keeping score. I learned so much from you about the organization, about rules, about stats, and I just appreciate you coming up there and being around, and you're just a good person, that's all. And I appreciate you coming and being part of this thing tonight. Thank you very, very much. Next I guess, Mr. Dianatis, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. I appreciate you hiring me every year to come down and do the stats down here. When you get done playing and you get done umpiring and you have nothing, you've kept me down here with the best players, the best organization, and kept me involved. And I'm just deeply, heartily and thankful for that you do this for me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next, if I can get through this. Okay, the next one, Kevin, would you stand up, please? Kevin, stand up. This is Kevin Croft. Mr. Brown, you stand up. Okay? These are your announcers that you don't see. This is my press corps that we have up in the press box. These guys do a fantastic job, as you probably heard. First of all, they were ex-students of mine. They were ex-employees of mine. And I have the fondest, and I'm so proud every time I work with them up there. They do such a great job, and I don't think they get the recognition they should because you don't see them up there. They just go up there and do the job. And like Ken says, we're here to stay. But these two guys are the best. They were hired by, like I said, by Mr. Ramsey at the '93 World Series, and they did a great job. I came down to watch them. That's the way I got hired. So the World Series got them hired, and also got me hired. So I appreciate that. Last but not least, I want to thank the women in the office staff, Lori, Wendy, Tracy, Stacy. You take care of me when I come down here. You even bring me food between games so I don't have to leave the press box. But you have done a great job, and I appreciate every little thing you've done for me to keep me coming back down here. And finally, the people next to me in the press box, Bernie, Matt, and Paul, it's a pleasure to work with you, and I appreciate all the help you've given me there. And finally, I'd like to thank again one more time the committee for nominating me for this honor. Thank you very much.
Our ninth inductee tonight is in the executive category. He is from Chandler, Arizona. He is Mr. Doug Stark. And now I'd once again ask everyone to turn your attention to the video boards so we can all learn a little bit more about Doug's many contributions to the USSSA and his profound impact in bringing softball to the West.
When I got done playing baseball, we're talking clear back in 1971, so we started playing slow pitch, and fast pitch was a game of choice in those days. We had a little slow pitch team put together, and we actually had to play double headers against fast pitch teams to get games. And we learned very quickly that you had to play the slow pitch game first, or the fast pitch guys would walk off because they thought it was unmanly to play slow pitch. I played for years and years, 30-plus years. About my 8th or 9th year, had the good fortune of meeting Jim Swint. He got me involved clear back when I was still in Kansas, when I was teaching at Kansas State. And I was an area director in Kansas for a couple of years. Enjoyed it, but we moved to Arizona. I took about a 4-year hiatus because I wasn't real sure I was going to stay in Arizona. And then Mr. Brown offered me the state director's position a second time in Arizona, and I said yes. The best compliment you could get at the end was they didn't really notice that you were there. Your event is well organized, people are properly classified, they have fun. and hopefully you offer a product that where they know they have an opportunity to participate on a level field, and they want to keep playing and come back. To be in an elite group like that is incredibly special, particularly given the fact that there's only 2 people representing the state of Arizona in the 47 years. I think, first of all, it shows a little bit of longevity. I was able to survive and stay relatively current, and I don't know, it's going to take a while to sink in. And I actually played for a team that qualified for the Men's A World in 1982 in Petersburg, Virginia. Those are the types of things that you remember as a player. As a director, you remember taking over a program that probably needed a little structure and kind of calming the waters and hopefully developing it to the point where, certainly in Arizona, USSSA is the program to play.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Doug, here's his friend and his fellow Hall of Famer, Mr. Robert Boudreau.
Thank you. First, let me extend my congratulations to tonight's class, a great class of 10 inductees. Welcome to the Hall, and please enjoy this great evening. It is said, it is easy to sit up and take notice. What is difficult is standing up and taking action. Today we are celebrating the fact that someone stood up and took that action. Today we are celebrating enthusiasm, commitment, and sheer hard work. Enthusiasm is often neglected as a force, yet without it, there would be few achievements. Enthusiasm, you see, sets fire to the imagination. It asks, what if? What if? What if? And the results depend on the answer to that question. Today we are honoring an individual who asked that question and committed himself to finding the answers. We are honoring an individual who worked late into the evening and early in the morning. We are about to present this prestigious award to an individual who would not take no for an answer. Doug Stark knew, you see, that there were answers to be found. He understood in the volatile sports industry, there were misleading side turns and unexpected obstacles. He discovered that some of the answers he got would be the wrong answers. He actually asked about, but he proceeded and moved on and pushed forward. Assistant Executive Director Jim Swint found Doug Stark some 30-some years ago. 35 years ago, Jim discovered Doug playing basketball against himself. Mr. Swint commented that if this kind of person can do this, I can talk him into being a slow-pitch softball director, and the rest is history. The early USSSA directors may have worked alone or in small groups, but they had, and I'm sure Doug will agree, the support and encouragement of family and friends. Without that backup, he could not continue to do what he has done for over 35 years. Lynn, I would like to personally thank you for giving so freely of Doug, as he has been an inspiration in Kansas, Arizona, the Southwest, and all parts of the country in this great USSSA association. Craig Ciandella, USSSA Southern California, and Doug have been USSSA colleagues for some 30-plus years. Craig says the best thing about Doug is his intelligence, his honesty, his integrity, and more straightforward, his bluntness. If you don't want to hear an answer to a question, then asking Doug may not always be your best interest. At Craig's Hall of Fame induction, Doug was Craig's presenter. And as Craig indicates, there could be no other person that he would have preferred having up there giving his presentation speech. Today, though, we can celebrate because Doug Stark has had results. He has made finds, he has expanded USSSA in Kansas, in Arizona, and the greater Southwest. And through his leadership skills and determination, he has made those 3 programs outstanding USSSA programs in this great association. Today, we thank all of his directors, his umpires, his managers, and teams who have experienced Doug Stark and his compulsion for detail. Fellow USSSA VP Tammy Totlin was a student of Doug at Kansas State University. Tamara Sue, as Doug called her, indicated Doug's eye for detail was evident in his classroom. As Mr. Stark would deduct points from misspelled words, so his eye for detail in USSSA was no accident. Doug, you have turned disappointment into success. Through your efforts, you have found some of the answers you needed to find to build a USSSA successful program wherever you have been. Current slow pitch VP, Elliot Clark, put it very simply. Doug Stark was my mentor. I would not be where I am today in this great USSSA association if it were not for the patience and leadership of Doug Stark for the past 5 years. In the world of sports, it will always be impossible to say that you have all the answers, of course, but you, Doug Stark, will continue to seek solutions in the years to come. Danny Brown, Assistant Executive Director, sums up Doug Stark very simply. He's an educator, he's a park and recreator. He is dependable, he is supportive, the person who always has your back. And he will always exceed his responsibilities. In today's often impersonal world of emails, texts, and tweets, Doug has always made himself accessible to our customers, our teams, our managers, our directors have asked for him by name, and his friendly attitude never fails in setting them at ease. Doug, I'm sure our good friend John Pond is looking down on us tonight, and he's smiling at your induction tonight because he, like you, were one of some of our steadfast VPs for a long, long time. In closing, the final and the highest accolade I would like to speak about is his friendship, whether it be through the USSSA or for our fondness of the K-State football program, the Arizona State football team, or our Louisiana Raging Cajuns, or whether it's sharing our Coke caps and Diet Coke caps, whatever it might be. Over 30-plus years, it is my distinct pleasure to have called you a colleague, but more importantly, your friendship has meant the world to myself and the Boudreaux family. Doug, congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 195th inductees of the USSSA Hall of Fame, Mr. Doug Stark.
First of all, I want to apologize in advance for sounding a little bit like a bullfrog. In typical Stark luck, I have not had a cold for about 3 years, and warm, sunny Florida did me in. So thanks in advance for your indulgence. I also want to thank Robert for finding a few nice things to share about me. Not the easiest task, I know. And meeting people like the Boudreaux family is one of the benefits of being associated for such a long period with USSSA. Robert probably shared more with you in 5 minutes than I often have in years. I can be kind of a private guy. An example, we lived in our first house for 6.5 years, and when we moved, I did not know a single neighbor by name. Now that was probably a minus for me and a plus for them. But hey, I did wave to him when I saw him, so it wasn't all bad. So it's been quite an exciting year for me. The Royals in the World Series, Arizona State and Kansas State much better in football than expected, and me being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I'm afraid things may be pretty much downhill from here. I basically have 3 predominant feelings as I stand before you tonight. First of all, I'm incredibly honored to be inducted with such a prestigious group this evening and about forever being included in such an exclusive club. 2, I'm a little bit embarrassed. There's a time-old line, the older you get, the greater you were. Well, first of all, most everyone that's a director in this association played, and everybody that's played thought they were great. So 5 years from now, I probably would be firmly convinced that I belonged in as a player, too. But the cold truth was I was able to surround myself with plenty of talent. We won quite a few ball games as a player. But as a player, I was basically a pretty good director. And once I finally accepted that and retired from playing, it was much smoother sailing. I'm also humbled. Bob Hope once said he was very humbled by this honor, but I think I have the strength of character to fight it. Well, I cannot agree with that. Unless you're a total egomaniac, it's incredibly humbling to be inducted into this club. Still hasn't completely sunk in that I'm only the second person representing the state of Arizona with the legendary L.B. Bouchon. I'm not totally convinced that I'm worthy, but it's certainly greatly appreciated. As Robert mentioned, I started playing slow pitch softball in 1971. I met Jim Swint when I was teaching at Kansas State. We believe it was the fall of 1980. As Robert also said, I was hanging out with all my friends at the Manhattan Recreation Center shooting jumpers by myself. And in walked Jim, introduced himself, and told me about both USSSA and a private complex in Hutchinson, Kansas called Fun Valley. The only previous experience I had had in running events was a fundraiser that I'd helped organize for the Manhattan Humane Society, but I thought it was something I might possibly enjoy and be proficient at. Jim was willing to overlook some of my eccentricities and cynicisms and allow me to continue to play, although he did seem to enjoy referring to our team on occasion as that band of thugs from Junction City. But I am glad that he allowed me to play because the highlight of my playing career obviously was pitching for a team that went to the 1982 Men's A World in Petersburg, Virginia. My teaching appointment expired at Kansas State in 1982, and Lynn was accepted to graduate school at Arizona State, so we were off to Phoenix. I wasn't in love with Arizona when I first moved there. Wasn't sure I was going to stay. I had met Danny on a referral through Jim. He actually offered me the state position twice. I turned it down in '83. We stayed in touch, and on Labor Day of 1986, I made a decision that probably forever changed my life and agreed to become the state director for Arizona starting in 1987. Arizona was a change for me from Kansas. First of all, they played year-round softball. Second, they weren't terribly receptive to a lot of rules and regulations. Not much of that has changed in that regard. But I did manage to survive for 16 years with a great deal of assistance from people like Jim, Danny Brown, Gary Wallach, and especially Tom Raines were really helpful. By the mid-1990s, we had it rolling. We had 2,200 plus teams in a relatively small state. We had 240 umpires, 125 teams traveling to divisional, world, or regional tournaments. And along the way, we were fortunate enough to establish working relationships and friendships with people like Jim Munson and Steve Navarro at the sports park in Tucson. Ed Farmer. Ed came back from Hawaii to assist me as the original general manager of Victory Lane in Glendale, and has since moved on to bigger and better things with Big League Dreams. Way too many people to even begin to name them all. I had a great support from home, obviously. Very loyal and hardworking group of directors. I spent 16 years as a state director, was close to burning out. Ed Johnson stepped in and helped me out. At that point, he had retired from his real-world job and was appointed as the successor. I stayed on as a VP for a few more years after that, and I've also gotten back involved a little bit on the state program with Elliott, and the last couple of years I've handled a job as a special project coordinator. Tremendous number of changes in slow pitch over the years, most of them positive. Those who learn to adjust and move forward are going to survive and often succeed. Today's players don't know or care a darn about what things were like in the 80s and 90s. Ancient history to them is 2008. So that points out the importance of flexibility and innovative leadership from people like Don. That's propelled USSSA to the forefront. I'm very proud of the fact that when opportunities from other associations presented themselves, I said no thank you. USSSA was always the only game for me. UTRIP has allowed me to meet so many people that I otherwise never would have. Some are no longer with us, like Charlie LaRoche and John Pond. Some were characters who just kind of faded away, like Jerry Stage. And people that I talked sports with and served on committees like Tony D and Jerry Turnberg, and current friends like Craig, Tammy, and Dwight, and Robert, just to name a few. Like some others, I am too soon old and too late smart. I had to learn to accept that my personality was an acquired taste and had a short shelf life for some. I appreciate USSSA giving me the opportunity, long-term opportunity to grow and eventually learn that a filter on my mouth and actions to suppress a spontaneous wit was not always a bad thing. I am also cognizant of the fact that I am yesterday's news with USSSA. My knees are shot. I can barely hear, courtesy of 33 years of officiating basketball. Today, USSSA consists of young directors like Stroh Kennison and getting comfortable in their surroundings, and exceptionally talented young executives like Elliot Clark. I am very happy that I had the courage of my convictions when I recommended that we appoint Elliot as a state director. Many people on the national level said, "Who?" And some of the Arizona people said, "Seriously." And I was dead certain that this guy was a keeper, and I have no doubt that someday he's going to be up here accepting an award similar to this. But the challenge to all of us today is to find people like Elliot and Stroh to be tomorrow's USSSA. To close, one of my favorite sayings has always been, "No expectations, no disappointments." I certainly did not expect this, but I again thank all of you for a wonderful honor. It's a night that I will always remember. Thanks, guys.
Our final inductee tonight is in the umpire category. It's the way it always is, the umpires have to be the first ones there and the last ones to leave. So we do it the same way here at the Hall of Fame. He's traveled all the way from Columbia, Maryland to be with us tonight. And the Hall of Fame inductee that we will introduce next is Mr. John Dye. Now let's turn our attention one last time to the video screens to learn more about John's long and very, very successful umpiring career with USSSA.
Yes, well, I guess as a kid, I played all kinds of sports, mostly sandlot, and in high school, never anything distinguished. And after college, when I was working, I was asked to officiate, and I started with slow pitch softball, and I quickly found that I could officiate at a far higher level than I had ever done as a player. Well, I think what I enjoy most about being out there at the game is trying to make sure that there's a level playing field for both teams, that neither team gets an advantage, that the outcome is decided by the play of the participants. Yeah, I think being part of a growth process like we've had in the girls USSSA fast pitch has been really exciting. Our numbers in terms of team registration, in terms of tournaments, in terms of World Series, have all grown literally exponentially. And that, of course, translates on the side that I'm on. The challenge is to secure and train and put on the field good qualified officials that can promote the program, promote the values of USSSA, and grow the program. Obviously, the game itself is very rewarding, but I think in terms of what I enjoy most is the camaraderie among the umpires. Not only from my home state of Maryland, but the friends I've made here from Florida, from Colorado, from California, Texas, all over, that now are, I consider, very close friends. I feel, personally, the biggest contribution that I have made to USSSA Fast Pitch has been on the rules side and the rule book itself. I take a lot of pride in what has happened to the USSSA Fast Pitch rule book over the past 5 or 6 years, and I feel I have been very instrumental in making the rule book much better. Well, I think it means a lot to be in the USSSA Hall of Fame. I'm still somewhat in shock that I've been nominated, and when I look around at the people in the Hall of Fame, especially the ones that I know, it's just such an honor to be associated with them.
And now to tell us a little bit more about John, here's his fellow umpire and friend, Mr. Jake Jacobs.
Good evening. I'm here today to present John for his induction into the USSSA Hall of Fame. John and I go way back as a slow pitch player and coach. John was umpiring a police tournament in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and there was an incident at third base, and all of a sudden, a fight broke out between both teams. Well, John walked up the third base side and said, "What do you think?" I says, "Can't call the police because they're all out there fighting." John and I both started doing fast pitch and modified pitch with the ASA. We then got together when my state UIC in 1994, I think it was, stepped down, and I asked John if he wanted to be the state UIC for Maryland. Told him that Bill Dow said he wanted him, I wanted him, and eventually John took the job. John and I worked side by side for 9 years, doing ball for NSA, and also coming on board with USSSA in 2006. John has worked very hard with the rule book for several years now, moving on coming in with USSSA. His main thing was getting the rule book straight and making sure that everything was working fine. The other accomplishment John is working on was the USSSA Fast Pitch National Umpire Committee. He has made this committee grow, doing more work than ever before, making sure that the umpires are best dressed and the most improved umpires that has been done. At this time, I would like to present to you Mr. John Dye.
Good evening. Thanks for staying this long. I appreciate it. And I am the last one, right, Danny? Okay. Two people I really need to thank. First off, obviously, Jake Jacobs and Bill Dow. We've worked together for a long time. I've always said with these these things that if it ever stops being fun, I'm going to walk away from it. And I've never really seriously considered walking away, because working with guys like Jake and Bill Dow, it's been a lot of fun, and I think we've contributed a lot to the game. I also have to thank my family. I'm not sure how many are still awake, but my 5 grandchildren who are here. Olivia, Joey, and Owen, and from Anchorage, Alaska, Nicholas and Jack. My 2 daughters, Jenny and Jane, are both here, and my new bride of 47 years, Karen, who is my rock and takes care of me, and like so many others, I do love her. I don't know how I would get along without her, frankly. So thanks for being here, all of you. A year ago, when Don made the announcement that I was going into the Hall of Fame, I frankly was in shock. I look around at the people that are in the Hall of Fame that I know, the people at this table here, Danny, Jim, and Don, and say, gee whiz, am I really in that group with those people? It's hard to fathom. I look at some of the other people, Tom Turley and Gordon Glennie, who gave me so much advice and counsel here, and Gordon, who we worked so many rain-filled tournaments at Disney, it's hard to count, but you know, you get a bond with those people and things like that. The local directors, Moose Holland, Brenda from Illinois, have known for a long time. It's just hard to imagine I'm in their category. The umpires I know, and boy, the Hall of Fame umpires that are here are really amazing. Dale and Doc and Dwayne. John Hart. When I grow up, I'd like to be like John Hart. That's really one of my main goals. He's just an amazing guy. And of course, the guy that everyone says they like, Rick Robertson, such a great guy. Always a good person to talk to. If I have an issue or something, I can bounce it off Rick and I'll get a straight answer, and he'll straighten me out. So I sort of feel to go in that group. I'm not sure as an individual I'm really worthy, but I would like to accept the award of the Hall of Fame as a representative of the close to 4,000 fast-pitch umpires in USSSA. And I had one other thing. I found out this week, and this is something I didn't know, but evidently there's more to Disney World than the Diamondplex and the Hess Fields. I didn't know if anybody else knew that, but I just found it out. So as a Hall of Famer, what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is those 5 kids over there, Jack, Nick, Owen, Joey, and Princess Olivia, we're going to go to Disney World. Thank you very much.
It is now my pleasure to reintroduce the Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer of USSSA, Mr. Don DeDonatis, for the presentation of the 2014 E.A. Ramsey CEO Award.
Thank you. final award of the evening is the E.A. Ramsey CEO Commitment to Excellence Award. This is an award presented by me to any individual that has provided outstanding service above and beyond the call of duty to USSSA or national headquarters. This person must have assisted me or national headquarters with a special project or had helped develop new technology with ideas that have significant impact on the way USSSA does business, and one who exemplifies leadership and teamwork. It is not often that you actually meet someone and immediately think this person actually gets it and shares the same passion for the program as you do. I can honestly say that almost daily, someone will come up to me with an idea and advice. And believe me when I say I get plenty of advice on how to grow our programs. But not so often do they give the advice and then back it up and take the lead to make sure the idea succeeds. This person has built their company from the ground up and having the vision to expand their reach into the multi-sport industry. Even though this person has encountered some difficulties, somehow he always finds a way to fulfill his obligation, no matter what it takes. Not willing to just talk about it, this person has proved time and time again their commitment to USSSA with his involvement in not only our slow pitch program, but our baseball and fast pitch as well. He's instrumental in the women's major program, the Mixed World Series program. Stepped up last year and was the title sponsor for the NPF with CBS Sports Network, allowing game to be played on national television for the Professional Fast Pitch League. I can also tell you I've known this man for almost 20 years, but only recently learned his story, a self-made man, a true family man. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the 2014 E.A. Ramsey CEO Commitment of Excellence Award, a man I am proud to call a friend, Don Cooper. Coop.
I apologize. I would have got dressed up. He told me I didn't have to do anything tonight, which is rare when he talks to me. I can tell you this about Donnie. A lot of you guys know my story, and my family sold our business through a unique time. We had a business that was owned in 2 different countries, and it was a tough time for our family to sell Combat and the process we had to go through. It ultimately worked out perfect for us and the future of the company and all of our employees. But quite frankly, it probably wouldn't have happened without the support of USSSA and some of the things that they did for us behind the scenes that they didn't have to do for us, quite frankly. And when people talk about partnerships, and Tim Lord, I wish he was here tonight because he always tells me I find a way to speak for all of the manufacturers. And I will say this for all the manufacturers in the room, is that USSSA has a unique partnership, and I mean that with no disrespect to any other association. But there are no other association that will do the things that all of you in this room will do. And I think the growth potential for this organization is astronomical. I think what we've seen from USSSA is just the beginning. And I don't think some of the visions that Don and Junior and the board share with me, I think some people would laugh at them or think they're crazy. And some of them were 5 years ago, and we thought, that's never going to happen. It's already happened. We've gone beyond that as a group. And I appreciate this a lot. Don, over the 20 years, has been way more than a business partner to me, and I think he knows that, and way more to most of us in my company, my former company, and the employees in that company. He's been a father to a lot of us. He's been a great friend to a lot of us, and I can't thank him enough. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to announce the class of 2015 that will be inducted next year in Temecula, California at Pechanga Resort. In the male category, Wendell Ricard. In the male category, Bryson Baker. In the female category, Lisa Sanchez. In the manager category, Wayne Williamson. In the executive category, Roger Wilson. In the director category, Denny Rose. Also in the director category, Bert Frederick. And in the sponsor category, Jeff Doricott. This week wouldn't have happened. Actually, the whole USSSA and everything we do week in a while wouldn't happen without these sponsors. But I'm gonna announce some of the sponsors that helped us this week and make all this happen with all the breakfasts and the lunches and some of the dinners. Crown Awards, Diamond and Easton Sports, Epic Insurance, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach CVB, Jostens, King Sports CVB, Lee County Sports Authority, Lexington County Recreation, Louisiana Association of CVBs, Overland Park, Panama City Beach CVB, Visit Topeka, Westgate Resorts, Mid-Atlantic and Amateur Sports Alliance, the formerly Wacomico, and special thanks to Robert Parrish for showing here tonight. You're special to this. The Worth family has been, and the Parrish family has made this, gave us this opportunity from Worth Sports in Rawlings, Macon. Special thanks to the staff and the people, the video, Kristen Bedard, Kelly Burke, TR and Wendy Brockwell, Steve Saluk, Bernie Gunther, Stacy Hobbs, Tom and Matt O'Hara, Paul O'Leary, Andy Purcell, Stephanie Taylor, and special thanks to Lori Timmons, who basically did all the dinners and all the calls and set everybody up's lodging. Let's give them a big hand here, please. And a few more, our Sergeant at Arms, T.J. Russell, Ed Dunn, Brian Mayfield, and Billy D. Austin. And then, again, a special, real special thanks here for this gentleman who does an awesome, awesome ceremonies here, Jeff Brown, for coming here and taking your time out to do this. The 2015 national meeting will be November through the 21st in Pechanga Resorts Casino in Temecula, California. In 2016, I'll give you that one too, the national meeting will be the 13th and the 19th of November at Sanibel Harbor Resort and Spa in Sanibel Island, Florida. Before I turn it over to Jeff, one more time here, I'd just like to say a few words here. I'd like to close this by telling you I'd like to stand before you this evening reflecting on an amazing year and only a beginning to imagine what the future will bring. With a brighter look to a year ahead, I'm excited and ready to take on the challenges it will bring and ask each of you to join me and pledge to do the same. With each Hall of Fame class induction, I see the rich history of USSSA unfold and growth and experience of our association spread across the nation. I continue to be humbled with your trust and dedication to the vision and we began some 47 years ago, and I look forward to what each new day will bring. Thank you for joining us tonight, and may I be the first to wish you a very happy and prosperous new year. Thank you very much.
For all of the new inductees and their families, we just want to remind you that there is a reception in the Champions Gate room, which is right up off the main lobby, and all the former Hall of Fame inductees who are here with us tonight are, of course, welcome to join as well. We look forward to seeing everyone a year from now in Temecula, California. And with that, I wish all of you a wonderful evening. Thank you for being part of a very special evening. Good night.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.